This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. Late nights are always fun. It is a late night Monday. It is our second installment of our Off the Wall Here and There C2C at Night talk show. Kind of, again, just throwing this out there again once more for the second time in a matter of a few weeks. But again, folks, Cal McClurg back with you today for the second time today here on Coast to Coast Entertainment again. More so just, again, kind of filling a bit of a program void today left behind by Bro Code. Again, the fellas are off tonight here this evening, and we figured we'd at least try to fill this late night time slot on this Monday, kind of recapping our day on Coast to Coast, recapping some of the big stories in sports today, and just kind of filling the void here for at least the next half hour, if not hour here this evening. We'll see if we get any of our panel members from our network to join in the fun, but of course we invite your input, though, if you are in fact watching us live here just after 10 o'clock on the West Coast. Again, I know it's right now almost 1 a.m. or just after 1 a.m. now on the East Coast here. But we, again, appreciate anyone who is, in fact, tuning in here and joining us. But again, we are bringing back C2C at Night. Again, just once more trying, folks, our hardest to kind of, again, fill some of these program schedules where, again, you know, Brandon Herrera had said a couple times on here, and I think it was our last Sports Minute episode last Wednesday. Again, we all have lives, we all have jobs, we all have, you know, friends and family we love to spend time with. And again, this is more of a, you know, hobby or freebie for us to kind of, again, pass the time when time allows us to be here again. And once more with Bro Code being off on this Monday night, we feel we'd come back and bring Coast to Coast at Night or C2C at Night to, again, just kind of, again, fill this program void right now. And, of course, kind of recap some of the big sports news today, more so here on this Monday night. Again, we'll actually recap kind of what was talked about on the Monday edition of Press Row, my Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday podcast, where, again, we talk all the big sports news, though, but from the angle of the sports media and sports business perspective. We can, folks, tell you right here and right now that coming up on Tuesday is another action-packed program once more. As always, we will have Coast to Coast or C2C Rankum, as always, with Big B Brandon Herrera and our good man Tim Hendricks joining Brandon bright and early on Tuesday morning, if you're on the West Coast, at least at 7 a.m. local time here, 10 a.m. Eastern, and, of course, 9 a.m. Central time back here on Coast to Coast Entertainment, where, again, Tim and Brandon will rank their top fives in a various amount of topics that they throw out here. And, of course, we'll also have a very big recap, though, of course, of WWE's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view that came and went from Australia on Saturday morning with Christy, Ace, and the entire wrestling crew on Between the Ropes later on Tuesday. We'll fill out a week as well again on Wednesday with another episode of Press Row and also Sports Minute back in the evening on Wednesday. Thursday, I believe we should be having Eleanor Wagner and Creepin' and Real back with us again on Thursday, as well with Press Row in the afternoon. And then Friday and Saturday we'll still fill out those voids as more time does go on here today. But again, folks, to kind of, again, get to some of the nitty-gritty in the sports world tonight, again, once more, folks, but Bro Code is off tonight again, so Chris, J-Mac, and the crew taking the night off again, and we will, again, see them hopefully come back here again next Monday night back here on C2C. But again, Cal McClurg, C2C at Night, filling the void right here at this rate. Just kind of want to, again, get to some of the big bulletins of the sports day here again on this Monday night. We'll get into the recap of the Press Row episode a bit later in the program here this evening. But again, just wanted to get to a couple of some of the notes here across the sports world. But coming down about 39 minutes ago, folks, in women's pro soccer, in the 2024 CONCACAF Women's Gold Cup, Mexico knocks off the U.S. women's national team 2-0, which marks the first time that the U.S. women's national team has been defeated by their neighbors to the south of the border in 43, or losing for the second time in 43 all-time meetings against Mexico, losing in Carson 2-0. But regardless, though, Team USA did advance to the next round, though, of the ongoing CONCACAF Women's Gold Cup that will continue here in San Diego coming up over the next couple of days. Some other storylines, very big development in the NBA, folks. And I actually just wrapped up watching the late night episodes of SportsCenter here. But Monty Williams, to his absolute frustration, went off on the officiating crew in the Pistons' narrow defeat at the hands of the Knicks on Monday night, citing a potential missed call on Knicks guard Dante DiVincenzo, who plowed over Pistons forward Asar Thompson. And Monty Williams delivered a tirade in his postgame interview that will probably see him get fined $25,000 in what was deemed a season's worth of mistreatment from NBA officials. Part of his rant after this game ended, he said and called it, quote unquote, the absolute worst call of the season. No call and enough's enough. We've done it the right way. We've called the league. We've sent in clips. We're sick of hearing the same stuff over and over again. We had a chance to win the game, and a guy dove into Asur's legs, and there was no call. That's a abomination. You cannot miss that in an NBA game, period. And I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of my guys asking, what more can we do, coach? That situation is exhibit A to what we've been dealing with all season. And again, enough is enough. You cannot dive into a guy's legs in a big-time game like that and there be no call. It's ridiculous, and we're tired of it. We just want a fair game called, period, and I've got nothing else to say. We want a fair game, and that was not fair, open and close quote. Now, to the perhaps potential credit, I would say, of the crew chief in this game, James Williams, who was standing right on top of the play which occurred during a very frantic closing sequence of this ball game, did admit to a pool report after the game that it should have been called a foul. James Williams told a pool reporter that upon post-game review that it was determined that Thompson gets to the ball first and then was deprived of the chance to gain possession of the ball. Therefore, a loose ball foul should have been whistled on New York's Dante DiVincenzo, open and close quote. It still did not matter. As a result, it's the Pistons who are now 8-49 have found themselves on the short end of a heartbreaking call for a second straight game after believing a traveling violation should have been called on Paolo Banchero's winning basket in Saturday's loss to the Orlando Magic at this stage of the Piston season. I, folks, have long believed here that in basketball, we all know damn well, though, that the referees always will, usually 9 times out of 10, put the whistle in the back pocket in a tight game in the last 2 minutes, which I also believe goes against anyone who thinks that the last 2-minute report is worth noting is out of their mind. I have long believed, folks, and this has been in my entire time covering basketball, mainly when I did my women's basketball podcast, I have not once believed here that the last 2-minute report means anything at this stage and at this point in time, where it's cool and all that we get a very fancy schmancy report that is put out at the end of games. As we do, in fact, folks, welcome in our good man, James Gonzalez, joining us as well here tonight. James, thanks for coming on board. Was just kind of, again, talking about this very, loony finish here that we saw between the Pistons and the Knicks, where, again, it's been boiling frustration for Monty Williams and the Pistons, who, again, may have been on the wrong end of 2 back-to-back bad calls, though. But, James, the tangent I was getting at here, though, man, is I don't care what that last 2-minute report reads about how many missed calls there were. How can you write that out after looking back at the film but not call it in real time, though, as I think the gripe there now. Of course, sadly, Monty Williams will be getting fined $25K probably for his post-game tirade. But honestly, I don't know, though, how you really can, I think, maybe fine the coach for the comments. I think, though, that if the crew chief confirms that the coach was right, I don't know how you really can go about finding the coach, though, for the commentary. I know, of course, that it's about, the integrity of the game, or it's this or that, or you can't criticize the referees. But James, your any thoughts, I guess, about Monty Williams? And is he, in fact, maybe right though that the last 2 minute report can just be thrown out the window in any close game like what he saw or what we saw on Monday night between them and New York?
Yeah, you know what sucks is that 2 minute report does more harm than good.
Absolutely.
Uh, it's almost like the strike zone report card that is on Twitter or X after MLB games. Uh, Again, it just does so much bad after what could have been good. But that's what happens when you have human error. It's just part of the game. And I look at the record of the Pistons, right? It's not good. Let's just say
Right.
that. But yeah, I saw that the second foul where it looks like the Piston gets just trampled on, and the
And he
ball
did.
gets yeah,
He
the
did.
ball gets loose and thrown away, and then somehow gets to Hart from Brunson. He lays it up and in, goes to the line. Man, the Pistons are just going through it. 8-49. Monty Williams, with all the pressure of his at the time the highest contract for a head coach in the NBA. Until last week, Steve Kerr got his. Uh, that's a lot of pressure. And then the trades that they've made, basically, getting rid of anybody that was valuable other from Cade Cunningham. Now you're just stuck with literally G leaguers, players that nobody wanted on other ball clubs, and they're all giving it. They're all literally, and Monty knows it. You mentioned the comments he had. It's just all that built up frustration. No, you could have got a win against one of the best teams in the East. I mean, I think the only reason they had a chance in this game is because the Knicks didn't have Giannubi and Julius Randle, and they're still going to be out for a little bit. But anytime the Pistons could get a win, especially on the road against a good team, they want that. And just being that close and to get cheated in a way, it just has to hurt Monty. It has to hurt those players on that ball club who played today or tonight. It just hurts, and you could just tell Monty Williams he'll take that fine. He can afford it, but it literally sucks for the Pistons. It sucks for him to have gone through a season like this so far. Uh, you know, Everybody's looking toward the draft. Everybody's looking for a sign of help, and this could have been great. Stepping toward something positive. But guess what? It's back to it's favoritism. New York, the league office is right there in Manhattan, down the street, kind of. Um, so I feel Monty's pain in a way because you know misery loves company. I feel that. So uh, it almost feels like you're playing a video game, and somehow the AI or the computer cheats you. This is probably how it felt with Monty tonight.
No, I agree, James. I feel terrible for Monty Williams, man. A guy who I think, turned around a Suns organization in 2021, got into the finals. They lose to Milwaukee in 6 games, though. Like again, it's destined that it's Bucks in 6 in the NBA Finals. Then he winds up, I believe, getting fired from Phoenix,
Mm-hmm.
and takes this colossal size contract from the Pistons. Okay, young team, very young, not been good for the last couple years. And it's an absolute nightmare this season, tying
Mm-hmm.
the NBA record for most consecutive losses. You know, Again, they got some good young players like a Cade Cunningham there and stuff like that. But also, when things aren't going right, James, no one's going to throw you a life preserver, as you probably know well with your time watching sports. That when the going gets tough, though, and the losses keep piling up, though, and I think it's more discouraging for a team like Detroit, though, when you lose a game in this fashion. Now, maybe take the referee out of the equation, but having that game like in the bag, you're up by 1, last 30 seconds, all hell breaks loose. Then this happens. Like it's a stroke of bad luck. Even I think if you take the referee and the missed call or the call out of the equation, like a young team learning how to win, taking their bumps right now, and like it seems like they can't finish off like those close game wins, James. Do you think that probably makes any sense in your mind?
No, yeah, it definitely does. It's just like the domino effect. You just know something's going to end up happening just wrong for you. So okay, once I'm not trying to sound happy about it, but
Right.
once that losing streak started to climb up and up and up toward record status, I watched almost every Piston game ending, thinking, okay, how are they going to blow it? Or will call going to go against them like tonight? And they actually had Boston on the ropes
They
in
did.
Massachusetts,
They
and
did.
they I don't know, I forget the score, but hey, they almost had them, and it was a close game all the way through. Here and there, Boston came back and forth, but it just shows you all year long. And then tonight, by the way, they had that trade. I want to say 3 weeks ago, before the All Star break, of course. Now, which is weird having the All Star. The trade deadline before the All Star break. All
Yeah,
my
that is
life, it
weird.
was after,
That's
like
weird.
2 weeks
Yeah.
after. But they finally got it right, probably because there's more time to gel with your new team. Um, but Evan Fournier, who was stuck on the Knick bench, he was in Thibodeau's doghouse, okay, in New York. He wanted to show out, and then Quentin Grimes, one of the young Knicks, got traded. Those guys got traded to Detroit along with Malachi Flynn of SDSU status.
Hey.
So Fournier, he made some threes. I saw Grimes. I know wanted to prove a point, like, hey, you shouldn't have traded me. I was one of the young maybe pieces that you wanted. But I know for them the game must have hurt because it's revenge. It's a revenge factor, and just sucked that it went the way it did. And again, man, that 2 minute report, you just hate when it happens to you. But then if you get fortunate, you feel lucky. But you're like, man, I know it's gonna happen to me eventually. Like karma's gonna hit. But again, I feel bad for Monty Williams too because look,
Same.
Monty, I think he lost his wife in a car accident when he was with the Hornets.
Hmm.
He was a longtime NBA player in the '90s. Had the ranks to go up with being an assistant wherever he did, and then he acquired that Suns team, and took him from the days of Jeff Hornacek and really never getting it right with Devin Booker starting off, and then built up, and then we're able to make trades. That 2021 finals, like you mentioned, him and DeAndre Ayton just never got along, and the Ayton's just a wild horse right now. He's not liked in Portland, and think about that, to not be liked in Portland, where you literally, I'm not,
You just
I'm
dealt Damian Lillard over the course of a season to Milwaukee. There's no superstar there right now.
I'm not saying this to be mean, but it's like, hey, it's like the Pistons. They don't have
Right.
anybody. Look at their record. They're
Yeah.
both, Pistons
Fair
and
observation.
Portland. It's a far cry from the 1990 NBA Finals. I'll definitely say that.
Yes.
Uh, so it just sucks. It's like Aiden, and he signed a new contract too there, but he just couldn't get along with Monty Williams. That joy, that respect I saw when Chris Paul was there and Devin Booker was there, and Aiden, or except Aiden, who was kind of by himself in the corner, they respected the hell out of Monty Williams. And then
They did. You can tell
once,
too.
yeah, once that deteriorated though, after that finals, after the benching of Aiden, Chris Paul got hurt at the wrong time. They lost by like 40, 50 points in that game 7 against Dallas. It was just time to make a change. Monty, it's almost a thing where it's like, man, I hope he makes it after next season out of Detroit.
Same.
Things
I
are
do.
that bad.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, for a guy so, loved and respected, and I know that Chris Paul and him had prior history in New Orleans, I
Yes,
believe, when Chris Paul was a rookie coming out of Wake Forest and stuff like that. And, Chris Paul thinks the world of Monty Williams. And I think it's a shame, though, when a guy or a coach like Monty Williams, so loved and respected by his peers, players, coaches, you name it, they get that chance to, I wouldn't say like rebuild their career, but move on to a new chapter, and it just does not pan out. But again, very, very amped up Monty Williams, folks, after the Pistons lose a very tight one in New York against the Knicks today. due to a potential no call against Dante DiVincenzo for just absolutely trucking the player for the Pistons for a loose ball. And again, it turns into a victory for the Knicks. But again, the head referee and the crew chief actually went back and told the media pool report, there should have been a foul called, which again goes back to James and me agreeing. The last 2 minute report could be just thrown in the shredder at this rate.
Mm-hmm.
With that in mind, James, I wanted to kind of recap my program from today on Press Row. Again, we had some very great content. Mainly was talking a lot of baseball and basketball. Again, folks, you can catch Press Row Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 3 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Eastern, right here on C2C, where, again, I sit down and talk about some of the biggest sports news and stories, but from the angle and perspective of the sports business and sports media landscape. And with that, James, I talked a lot, man, about what's been going on again with baseball's offseason. We talked about this on Wednesday on Sports Minute, and finally we had a domino fall with Scott Boras's clientele of Cody Bellinger signing with the Cubs on Sunday morning. And this kind of led me down this, very interesting rabbit hole, pretty much, my man, of where we're at right now. That we have seen, a lot of just weird things. Again, we have Blake Snell still unsigned. We have Jordan Montgomery still unsigned. Matt Chapman still unsigned. JD Martinez still unsigned. All 4 players being represented by Scott Boras, who has criticized teams for not signing the top players, even though that the league receives at least $11 billion in revenue every year. 19 of the 30 clubs, James, have cut their payroll, including the Padres, who very well have been slashing payroll like it's someone slashing people's tires at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, the thing that I also think, James, is very, very interesting here out of this whole entire fray is the fact now that we're looking at the players' union potentially filing a grievance over reduced spending. But Tony Clark, the executive director of the PA, says that they're still right now gathering all the information that they can to put this out here or put it out there right now. And with spring training already having begun, James, the fact that there's still these 4 guys out there goes to a point as well from Twins owner Jim Polid, who told WCCO Radio in Minneapolis that the Twins won't spend $30 million to get a player right now. And those comments could, in fact, be in violation of this current CBA, the labor agreement that prohibits both sides from, publicly talking about this sort of stuff. So, James, like I said, man, we talked about this on Wednesday last week on Sports Minute. But now, James, one of the big 4 is finally off the board now. Big 5's off the board now in Bellinger back to the Cubs. Snell is still out there. Montgomery's still out there. Chapman's still out there. Martinez is still out there. Talk from Jeff Passan of Snell going to the Yankees or Angels. Talk of Montgomery having a dialogue with Boston. Who knows about Matt Chapman and JD Martinez? There was some spattering of talk of the Giants wanting Chapman. Nothing, though, about Martinez. But, James, what a mess this has become this year. And I also think, though, as well, though, James, real quick, that I said, though, as well on PR today, I'm actually in agreement with Rob Manfred that there needs to be like a set number of days to have all this stuff ironed out. I said maybe 90 days or 120, or you have to sign before pitchers and catchers report to camp. When that first team reports to camp, everything has to be set in stone. Because like I said, though, that this could throw off a team kind of in a way with someone like Snell coming into camp with the Angels, for example, or Montgomery coming in, not really this late in the camp, but still like you've missed pitchers and catchers reporting. You have missed, the first team workouts. Like you're kind of in a way coming in the middle of the concert, in the middle of the game, in the middle of the season, and you can't gel and form that team chemistry. So, James, your thoughts more so about the remaining free agents, and also could something be done maybe in your mind to help cure what we have seen right now with this very ongoing fever of there being no spending in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, if you could keep this up, because I want to kind of go through it all.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking about the remaining free agents. So,
Same.
knowing that he or Scott Boras, has those clients, maybe the owners finally got together, just said, "Hey, we're not going to make it easy for him. We're not going to give in. Yeah, we are not going to do this."
And pitchforks and flames. Let's go.
Yeah, because
I
I always got sick of him standing right behind the plate after, in every Angel game, sitting in that area Now he sits on the, of course, on the visitors side. Of course, the Angels, of course, have had a terrible relationship with him and his clients. So, I'm really surprised Matt Chapman is still out there. I just
Same.
think I think teams are just saying, "Hey, however much you want." It's kind of like with Snell. It's like, no, that's too much. That's too much per year, or that's too many years. No more, going into 38, 39, 40 years old making so much money. No more of the Pujols contract. No more of that crap will go
Josh
on.
Hamilton's contract.
Right. Not even being there. Yeah. Um, I think, yeah, the teams, they're more hesitant now, just seeing the past, or maybe they lost a lot of money from the 2020 season and they're either trying to recuperate it, or they're being cheap, which is, fine on their part. But then you're going to have the agents, then you're going to have the players association say, "Hey, we want to see the books, we want to
Yep.
see the true payroll," which you'll never get unless it's in the court of law, unless you go like that, and then we'll have a stoppage. We just
We
got
may
out
have
of a
another strike.
stoppage.
We may have another strike like
Yeah.
'94.
Yeah, and then I think about, was it a couple years ago how we had that stoppage before spring training, I think.
Just last year, I believe we had one, right? 2022.
Yeah,
So
2022.
2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, I just think we're gonna head to that again.
In 2 years.
Uh, yeah, or maybe sooner. Maybe there's an emergency meeting. The players' association,
Woo!
the agents get together and just say, "Hey, we got to stop everything because our clients aren't getting their money. We're not getting our 10% or 5%. We need this. We need our yachts. We need our summer homes or our winter rental homes. We need this and that. We need to get the best for our clients and 10% of us." So I feel like it's a money grab, and the owners are kind of saying, "Hey, we're going to be smart for once." I'm kind of on the side of the owners in a way, but to a point where it's like, "Hey, be truthful with everything." But going through the players, personally, I don't want Blake Snell on the Angels. I know he wants to stay on the West Coast, but no one is offering him anything else. Like no other
San
team is.
Francisco, I thought was in, and then they pulled out because I think of the
Yeah,
money figures from Scott Boras.
yeah. He would get destroyed in that New York market media for not being, maybe a gamer. Well, he's a gamer, but not an actual baseball gamer.
Esports game.
Yeah. He would. Yeah, he wouldn't be liked there. And I thought Philadelphia may have had a shot on him, but I think he's again worth too much. Montgomery, I feel like any day now, the Red Sox are going to sign him. His wife was working in Boston.
Right.
He was working out in Boston. I just feel like that's going to eventually happen. The surprises are Matt Chapman and Martinez because look, everybody can use a DH. Now maybe the price is too much, but I thought Martinez, an Angel, I thought maybe randomly like San Diego, whoever needs a little more power.
No, the Padres need a lot, sadly.
Yeah. They need a lot. I mean, every team can use a DH because it's universal. So I was kind of shocked by that. And then when Justin Turner got, signed by the Toronto Blue Jays, I was like, wait, I really thought Chapman was going to go back to Toronto. So that was a surprise. Maybe, hopefully it's not a thing we saw in 2019 with Bryce Harper and Machado, how it went into, was it mid-March almost, I think, where they finally signed?
I think around like late February is when they kind of began signing, maybe like early March.
Yeah, so it would have to be next week then. We're getting closer and closer. And I like what you mentioned. I never really thought about it. When you think about Montgomery, Snell, the pitchers that haven't been signed yet, when you're late, it's really bad, or unless you've been working out. You know, everybody's on their workout routines. It's not like 70, 80 years ago where everybody's, sitting back, Babe Ruthing everything, eating hot dogs, smoking cigars, beers every day, multiple beers every day. It's not like that anymore. So everybody's in shape. You should come to camp already in shape, not to get into shape. That's what Kenny Smith always said on Thursdays. I always
Right.
use that. Um, what was I gonna say though? But when you're my old elementary school principal, Mrs. Garcia, at Golden Elementary in Downey, California, she always said, "When you're missing school, you're missing out." And
Yes.
this is what this reminds me of: being late to the party when everybody else is in. Pitchers and catchers, whoever wanted to get in there early. So, okay, so about the lower payrolls, I could see that just based on maybe the 2020 season, the attendance
Great point. Yeah.
going down those couple of years. I know they had a record year last season based on the time changes in the league, the new rules. I'll tell you
Getting
what,
past COVID.
I probably won't be going to many games. I'm gonna do my best to not give in to maybe go to Padre games, but not Angel games. Um, I can see Padres just because, and you have to factor in the three teams I saw because of the Bally Sports, the Diamond Sports Group issue. The
Yes.
Mariners, the Rangers, and I think the Padres were three issued or three
Diamondbacks
teams
and
with
the
the
Rockies are also part of that too.
wow. See, it's just you have to factor that in. No, not everyone is spoiled like the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Cubs that have their own cable networks. So you really have to factor that in.
And
So I
also,
can
James,
see,
and
yeah.
James, if I may as well, I think the other big notable caveat to the Padre ordeal, Peter Seidler's passing in November.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's yeah. Because now you're saying, hey, I don't know what to do here. Maybe the family, the rest of them are just saying, hey, he did it this way. I don't know if we should do it this way. And I think the writing on the wall was basically, hey, we're not going to re-sign Juan Soto. We might as well get something for him, and kind of spend smartly for now. Because it's just weird. They have Bogarts. They had to move him to second base to put Kim at short, and they had two outfielders or infielders out in the outfield. The tough part. I mean, I felt so bad for Jackson Merle. He was out there
Mhm.
in left field, and it's like you shouldn't be out there. You shouldn't be having to switch positions. Not even with the team yet. It's just it's frustrating. I know for probably the Padres. And then really quick about the Twins. I remember after the season ended, um, someone mentioned, hey, they're not going to be spending, and they're looking to cut payroll. So they
And
made
they
a
were also
trade.
kind of in a way teetering with the whole Bally Sports North issue too as well, but they came back to the table.
Yeah, I forget who they traded. It was one of their big name players, but that was kind of a sign that they were saying, hey, they're not going to spend, and they're gonna shed payroll.
Oh, they traded Polanco, I believe, for Steve Okert, I believe, to
Yeah,
from to Miami, I believe.
so it's amazing, and they keep finding their trade partners with the Marlins. Uh, but I knew that was coming with the Twins, but it's just again a domino effect. It feels like throughout the league.
Absolutely.
Um, man, I'm for the future of the game. I'm like, man, I'm not looking forward to the off seasons just based on the agents,
Because
the
you never
players
know what's going to
association.
happen if they're going to just say, we're done, we're going on strike again,
I
like
just feel like
30
that's
years
going to
ago.
happen after next year. I feel like that's going to happen after the season. I really, really do. I think the game. It's like everybody literally has to take a step back, both sides. It's like we're back in
Agreed.
2022 again. Everybody literally has to take a step back and say, how can we make this work? Okay, you put your guard down. You put your guard down. Let's get together again and make this work. Or it's just going to be a mess. That's all I could tell about all this.
And it feels like we're kind of heading that way. And I think it's just because of this, and we call it James. I mean, you've heard me say it on Press Row, you've heard me say it on Sports Minute. This has been by far the most lackluster,
Mm-hmm.
anticlimactic baseball offseason in my 30 year, going on 30 years of being a baseball fan because there's no action. Like everyone's just sitting on their hands, waiting for the year to begin. And I think it's just more of like that state of malaise with the Padres because there's no left fielder, there's no center fielder, there's no first baseman, there's no DH, there's no depth on the bench. There's two holes in the starting rotation. Like there's seven things right here I just counted for my hometown ball club, and the budget is just not there again, partially because of television, partially because of Peter Seidler's unfortunate passing in November. And I think also, sadly, the Padres running amok with those long-term extensions for Machado and Bogarts and the Bogarts contract, I should say, and then the extensions for Cronenworth and Darvish and Musgrove and Tatis as well. So a multitude of factors leading to a very slow baseball offseason. But of course, James, it would not be baseball talk without the debacle that has been the uniforms that we have seen right now in Major League Baseball. This actually, James, comes on the heels, though, man. I think you've seen, though, the very unfortunate NSFW photos that have come out from media days with the Giants. I even think with some other ball clubs. But it's come to the point now, James, where Nike had put out a statement on the uniforms after over a week of player resentment and criticism. Despite that they've called the uniforms to be lighter, more flexible, but they've also been see-through, sadly, with Nike saying that they put the athlete at the center and have worked with the league to create the most advanced uniforms in baseball history. Saying that the quality is important in that they will continue to work with the league and the Players Association. But Tony Clark further said that the see-through pants are a top concern among the players, calling it disappointing that uniforms are a topic of baseball discussion, with some players, including the Padres, their first game against the Dodgers, actually wearing the pants from last season because of the see-through material. And also, even worse, not all the clubs have even received the new pants yet. Again, the Padres wore their old pants in their first spring game versus the Dodgers back on last Thursday. And similarly, James, kind of in a way reminds you a bit of that whole debacle with the NBA going to the synthetic ball in 2006. And also that the frustration is probably, I think, worth monitoring right now. Because, James, I said this, though, on Press Road today. I love ambitious ideas. Like, I love that we have seen Nike try this whole City Connect thing with Major League Baseball. But I also look, though, at how Nike has ruined the NBA by having teams wearing 8 or 10 different uniform combinations, where I said, like, the Lakers wearing purple at home doesn't do it for me. The Celtics wearing nothing or wearing something other than white at home does not do it for me. The Bulls not wearing red at home does not do it for me. I love the ambition, but it's almost, again, Nike has pushed the envelope so far forward with the NBA. How much further can you push it before you have something like this happen? And I think, James, it has come to the forefront here within the last week again of what we have heard from players. Like, I believe Nolan Arenado said it felt like he was wearing a paper towel on his back with the new material. Again, we've had just very unfortunate, regular, ordinary media day photos from teams like the Giants who have been put out, though, but you can literally see the players' legs through this new fabric. And I think, though, James, I wouldn't call it disappointing like Tony Clark did. I call this embarrassing on Nike's side of the story, my friend.
I saw the story where they were wearing the prototype jerseys in the All-Star game last year, right?
Correct.
But both were all colored uniforms. It wasn't white.
You would never have noticed.
Right.
Exactly.
It wasn't white. It wasn't gray. We weren't really paying attention because nobody really said anything
until spring training.
I did find out, though. I saw a video, I think it was on Instagram. Somebody did their due diligence where they said, hey, we found Nike out there. There was a woman during the All-Star batting practice. Okay. Mm-hmm. And she was asking the players, like, hey, how does this All-Star game jersey feel? Like, does it feel loose? Does it feel nice? And the players said, yeah, it feels like we're wearing, just like a dry fit t-shirt out here. There were great reviews from it. And again, nobody knew. They kept it a secret. And then, somebody at Nike, I think they also wore it, I want to say, at Arizona Fall League.
Probably.
In the wintertime. I think I read that. And again, there was no, no complaints or anything. We didn't hear anything. Maybe nobody really knew. They're saying, "Oh, these are just uniforms, just for you guys for this, for this winter league. It doesn't mean anything." Um, but I would have figured somebody at Nike, would have like, hey, done their homework, done the visual tests, done the actual field tests, and just say, hey, this looks weird. This person's parts are out in a picture when they're taking a picture, or you know, the names on the back. I really hate.
Yes, that's been a big complaint too.
For the Braves, you know how they have the stripe on the collar, and now the logo's on the bottom of that, and then the name is literally every name is
Arched.
like, yeah, arched out, and then the numbers are right there, right below it. It's just, doesn't it feel like everything in the world is smaller now?
Yes.
The content, or not the contents, yeah, the contents of what you get, like in food portions for me,
Yes.
but but um, but the jerseys, the material, the patches, they're not even like nothing's
They're not
sold
even,
on
yeah, they're not
anymore.
even embroidered. They're like
Screen printed,
screen
basically.
printed practically. It
Yeah,
seems like.
yeah. I saw I don't know if it was Seattle's, but it
Seattle,
looked
yeah.
really
They
small.
compared the Mariners patch from last season that was stitched embroidered to now what Fanatics does with like their replica jerseys that I have a couple from the NHL where the logo is not stitched on. It is like heat pressed on basically is what it is.
That's it.
It's heat press, yeah.
Yeah, that's how the MLB logo is heat pressed, and it just looks very tacky. It looks like a China jersey you would get, if
Yeah.
if you're on the internet for that, which I've seen a lot of people
Yes.
get because they
Plenty of
don't like the new
times.
ones. So MLB is losing money on that for sure. So it's just it's unfortunate because yeah, it reminds me of the Nike jerseys and how the the lines don't connect in the back on all the jerseys for the NBA
Mhm.
jerseys. It just looks awful. Like the Celtics when they wear their home or aways, the white or green, they don't connect in the back, and it just looks tacky. It looks like something's off. Literally, the lines don't connect. It, it's like people are putting the products together, but they're not putting common sense with it. It really is. It's awful. Um, I thought when Nike got it, I was like, okay, the worst they're gonna do is put the swoosh on the front. Okay, I'm fine.
Little
Fine.
did we know they were going to be making a whole new uniform set for City Connects for practically 28 of the 30 clubs right now.
Yeah, and it's funny how Oakland has theirs. That's all I'm gonna say. It's just that's weird. Eventually, they're gonna leave, but
Well,
um,
they're not part of the program this year. Neither is the Yankees.
oh maybe okay. I saw
So
something
it's
wrongfully.
Cleveland, Detroit. The Dodgers are having another addition made. I think they're dumping the blue that they had
Most
wore. I
study.
think it's going to be I think it's Cleveland, Detroit, Dodgers 2.0,
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, Toronto, St. Louis, and I believe Tampa.
Did you see Philadelphia's? It's like their city flag. I want to
City
say.
flag, yes.
Yeah. So that just looked weird. Anyway, I know Fanatics. They've gone in here. They've used the cheap materials for their jerseys. The fan ones that don't cost as much. I can't believe the authentic one is like what $394.
Something like that.
The replica is like 194.74. That's just stupid. Lucky I don't collect jerseys, like that. So
I do, and just in perspective, I'll jump off camera here real quick and actually grab one of the Fanatics ones I have from the NHL to kind of show everyone front and center here. So give me a sec.
yeah, let me say about that synthetic basketball in 2006. I went to some games. I got to touch the basketball at a Dick's Sporting Goods, and man, I could tell how the leather or whatever they were using was like a sponge, and the players were getting cuts. It
Yes.
just kind of reminds me of an experiment gone wrong. Everybody hated the basketball. Everybody couldn't shoot it as right. It didn't bounce correctly. It's literally the tool that they use to make their money. And hey, I'm all for players, having lighter material. We saw this in the NFL when they had the Nike jerseys at first in 2012. They looked odd on linemen because a tight shirt, a tight jersey,
Oh
big
yeah.
guts, everything's gonna stick out or sweat. I noticed that right away, and they've been kind of lucky. I think they switched it up possibly, but it's just a mess. So what do you have there?
So yeah, so this is a Anaheim Ducks 25th season anniversary year Fanatics replica of what the guys would have worn on the ice. Now, Fanatics, at least with the actual on ice, the jersey patches and the actual logo on the front would be stitched. So this literally, James, is what the Mariners patch right now that you saw that comparison what looks like right now on the jersey. It literally feels extremely soft like this. Like I can literally rub my hand over it and you can actually hear that it's not embroidered like my alternate captain A is. And then my nameplate is actually, and then the name is actually on a plate. And all this was heat pressed on at the team store at Honda Center. And you can kind of see like kind of not flimsy, but like there's a bit of a bump where the number's at on one of the ones and things of that caliber. But I mean, this feels great. Obviously, it's a hockey jersey, so it keeps me warm, though. But you can definitely tell the difference, though, depending on what you get from Fanatics and what you get if you buy the actual on ice product.
Yeah, I'm. I'll probably never get one of those because I don't want to give the Angels any more of my money. So I'll never. I'll probably go to the stores and see the difference, but I'll never be in line to get one. But I'm just disappointed because I figured, okay, Nike, they'll probably get it right, but man, it just feels like they've gotten everything wrong. And now what? You have the alternate orange one
This
from a while
is
back?
a so this was actually when Reebok still had the right to
Yeah,
the NHL jerseys, but this is a legitimate on ice product. This is an actual embroidered jersey front. And same thing, these are heat pressed letters and the nameplate on the back, but still, even then, the actual logo is actually embroidered onto the sweater as opposed to being heat pressed on. And the other one that I do have, which is a white one like this, but it's white, they're reverse retro. I actually had a friend of mine who does a lot of sewing for the local sports teams here. So he gets all the nameplates from every team practically, and he actually embroidered and sewed on my name and number onto like 3 different jerseys recently. But you can definitely tell though the difference from when it's a off like the real deal, as you can probably see here again, where you can again like
yeah,
legitimately see like the frails inside the mask of the duck to the Fanatics replica I just showed you a couple of minutes ago.
that's amazing how, again, the quality of things have gone down and you're just hoping for better. But now into the future, it just doesn't seem like they don't care. They just put out a product and say, give us your money. And fans, with the attention span, the newer fans, I should say, oh, this will get me in trouble, right? The newer fans don't have the attention span like, let's say, we do from from a different generation. They're just gonna spend whatever and get absolutely uh, swangled for it, or hoodwinked, or led astray. So it's awful. I won't be a part of it. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
and I'm glad that I got the Padre new brown and gold white home jersey when they first came out during the COVID season in 2020. I think if I was to get another one, I'd get like the Padre Road Alternate, which is that light sand with the brown pinstripes across the front, where it's not the full blown dark brown, but it's like the beige, like the
I like that
almost
one.
like '04 era Petco Park
Hmm.
first year Padres when they first moved to Petco 20 years ago. But even then, I'd still be kind of leery though about like the material, maybe, but still like baseball and Nike need to figure this out. And I think though, James, it just goes back to my point though that I personally feel like Nike ruined the NBA for me when they
Oh
let
yeah.
teams wear 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different uniform combos. They'd be giving out these stupid ass like earned jerseys because you made the
Hmm.
playoffs. Here's a jersey that you get to wear for the last like 2 months of the season. But like I said though, also screwing up a tradition. I don't like the Lakers wearing anything but gold and white at home. I want the
Yes.
Celtics wearing white at home and the Bulls wearing red at home. No exceptions to the rule. Cut it out.
Yeah, I really hate when the Lakers wear white and it's not on Sundays. You
Yes,
know, that was the thing when Chick Hearn passed away. The next year they had white uniforms, and that was considered, a dove, you know, um, uh, tribute to Chick Hearn, and wearing white uniforms, white Sundays, and now it's just like random. And then when they wear that purple and black uniform at home, and I remember seeing that in 28, starting in 2018, I was just I don't know. I was embarrassed for them. I did like well, I don't know how it's gonna go, but the Clippers today.
we'll talk
Uh,
about them in a second.
yeah.
Actually, yes.
So I really like what they did, but I'm like, man, I just want to see White at home. You know, I play. I want to say maybe Charlotte started this wearing a color at home, and it was only one time. They were playing the Orlando Magic. I want to say the home opener 93-94 in at the Charlotte Coliseum, and they were wearing their new purple uniforms at the time, the striped uniforms, the alternates that those years. But that was the only time I seen that. And then there were some throwback nights, in the early 2000s where it just happened to
Hardwood
be that.
Classics.
Yeah, where LeBron and the Cavs would wear that 80s orange, and then the other team would have to wear white. Now you have color on color sometimes.
And that is a broadcaster's nightmare. Believe me firsthand.
If you're colorblind as well, yeah, it's just.
Yes.
Oh
Can
yeah,
confirm.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I just. Yeah, I want things to go back to normal. College basketball has kind of been good with this, other from when just this last Saturday, USC was playing UCLA for the last time in the Pac-12 era.
And they both wore
Um,
color.
yeah, and they do that just for that rivalry, like for college football games. I didn't mind that, but the rest of the games, I don't want to see USC wearing, the cardinal red at home. And would you imagine and UCLA has never done that where they wore their blue at home. I just never want to see that ever in college basketball. But I know
Yeah.
some schools have done that.
Yeah, like for me, that'd be weird if the USD Toreros wore their navy blue or their light blue at home. Like that's reserved for the road. Like though I love the fact that the men's team has or had a powder blue that was their throwbacks to when they were, I believe, first coming into D1 athletics. They literally had San Diego in cursive across the front. I think they wore them for the San Diego State rivalry game one year. There was one year that they wore black at home against SDSU. Like, what are you guys doing? Literally wearing the color of the rival, and SDSU was wearing black that night. But it was so weird seeing USD wearing black with blue lettering, white trim against the rivals from San Diego State who are red and black. Like that just made absolutely no sense whatsoever. But speaking though, James, of your beloved LA Clippers dropping their brand new logo for their move to Intuit Dome in Inglewood next season. Again, I think, James, loved seeing this for a multitude of reasons. Again, folks, here's the logo courtesy of the GOAT himself, Chris Creamer, sportslogos.net.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the Clippers are going with a navy blue, light blue, and red color scheme, which includes a new logo, which features the front end of a Clipper ship, which is here in San Diego, California, the famed Star of India. Inside of a C with a compass, which has the north pointing due north to the N in Los Angeles, and a brand new updated naval style font around the logo. They also rolled out 5 other logos on Monday, which includes a new global logo, the primary logo, a secondary alternate, and 2 old but updated word marks of Clippers and Clips. Again, that primary logo has the front end of that ship with the compass without the word mark around it. The partial is just the C with the compass bits. The secondary LA logo, a little bit interesting. And then again, the updated Clippers and Clips wordmark logos. The team also dropped 3 new jerseys: a navy blue with red and white outlines, a home white, potential home white, but a white jersey with blue and red trim, and then the red jersey that has the Los Angeles wordmark in cursive with a blue and white underpanel with red or a blue and white trim. And that also features the famed San Diego era nautical flags that spell out the
Mm-hmm.
acronym of LAC on both the right and left arm. And it also includes a brand new playing court, which includes the Intuit Dome logo. Again, they're moving to this new arena next season. And also that features the actual latitude and longitude of the city of Inglewood, California. So
Wow.
again, James, I said this on Press Row on Wednesday. It is very uncommon, I think, my man, that we see a franchise who leaves town, goes somewhere else, and keeps the former city or cities in their memories. Unlike
Mm-hmm.
the professional football team who left my hometown for LA. I said, though, James, and it's been pretty interesting. There's been a very unofficial Clipper Padre relationship.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard having come to some Padre games, Norm Powell, Lincoln High alum here, Paul George, who's come to games. I think they came up for the playoffs last season.
Yep.
And that there's been a very cool, weird, interesting paradox or crossover between a franchise and the Clippers who played here 40 years ago in San Diego and left town 40 years ago. But they were powder blue and orange from what my parents told me back in the day. So they would wear powder blue, white lettering, orange trim with the somewhat, as we saw there, on the jerseys, but those numbers are basically San Diego inspired right there. I think of Lloyd World Be Free and Tom Chambers and Bill Walton and those guys who played in San Diego back in the 70s and the 80s. But again, James, it's not very common nowadays that we see a franchise who leaves a market. And above all else, James, they keep the team name. There is no harbor anywhere near Los Angeles. This is totally based off their time in San Diego. The biggest rival of LA sports is San Diego. But they fully, though, James, embrace their nautical history. This logo is, I think, very, very sweet. But also, I said, though, James, too, on Monday, new stadium, new arena usually means rebranding. Padres did this 20 years ago when they went to Petco Park. They went to navy blue and beige when they went to Petco 20 years ago. You know, obviously the Lakers tweaked their colors when they first came from Minneapolis to Los Angeles at one point back in the early 60s. So, James, you're a Clipper fan, man. Your overall thoughts? I'm really digging this, man. And like I also said, though, the Clippers and Rockets, even for this diehard Laker fan, the Clippers and Rockets have a soft spot in my heart because they have both acknowledged their time in San Diego. Again, the Rockets were the green and gold of the San Diego Rockets from 1968 during one of their most recent runs doing their City Edition uniforms. And of course, the Clippers kept the team name from San Diego, tweaked the colors. Now, really, I think, are fully embracing their roots here when they first came out west in 78 from Buffalo.
Yeah. You know, I went to a Clipper game, I think 3 Mondays ago, and they still had the warm-up jacket or the warm-up sweater from their 75th anniversary. And it was the Buffalo Braves orange and black mixed with the team logos from the LA Clippers time. And they also added some Pacific blue or light blue of the San Diego Clippers. It was just that year. There were some great mixes of color. Milwaukee maybe had the best. They literally had but their warm-up jacket was literally purple, green. I think they even had that blue, the river blue in there, and the yellow, and and something else. But
I think they called it the mixtape series, and I absolutely loved that during that season because they were so great.
There were some great times from these. And Chris, of course, this website is amazing here. So the one thing I didn't want to see about the new logo with the Clippers was like, hey, get away from the Chicago Cubs look. And they just doubled it basically with this. The first thing I saw was like Cubs. There's a C there. There's a whole circle and another line there, which is fine. And then I did notice, for years when Ballmer bought the team, it was like, hey, call them the LA Clippers. Don't say Los Angeles. Now they're saying Los Angeles Clippers. Maybe it's better to say the whole city name. But I did notice that, so I kept saying LA instead of Los Angeles. So I like the ship there. I like the kind of compass look, and they added the basketball in there. I mean, that's a lot to put inside one logo, and they accomplished it. It's kind of crowded, but it's like, okay, but it all blends in together.
It does
It's not
beautifully.
missing anything. And I do like that powdered line, or the powdered blue line. I'm sorry, Pacific blue line is what they call it. I do like that. It's on, I think, the red or
I believe it's
the
on the
white of their
red, I
jersey.
think. Let's go back and check out the
Yeah.
uniforms real quick. It looks
Oh,
like it is on the
yeah.
red.
So, by the way, growing up with the Clippers in LA, I loved the cursive script of the Clippers.
Yes.
I'm so happy that's back. I I just wanted that from that time. I don't care about the other parts of the logo. They needed a LA, they needed the secondary ones. That's fine. But looking at the uniforms, for so long, I wanted a red one back with the Clippers. If you recall, the last time they had red was, I think, 2015,
And they had that
2016.
weird, like,
Yeah.
LAC logo and then the number, like, it looked like it was
Ah,
a baseball jersey.
that was so stupid. And they rarely wore those because people were talking. So that's why they had the black ones all the time. Now, okay, so if you look at the three jerseys, what I like about the red is basically the red. The LAC, like you said, with the nautical letters, the
It's
white
also a San
number.
Diego tribute right there.
Yeah. The Los Angeles, that stems from their city edition uniforms when they were honoring the Watts Towers. That's the
Yes.
actual script from what I recall. So I just love that there's a red uniform because when I grew up, they had red on the road. It wasn't until like 2002 is when they had that blue alternate that spelled out Los Angeles. And it
Mhm.
went back to their days when they first came to Los Angeles. So these were the colors when they left San Diego. They had 2 years where they got away from the Pacific blue and orange and they
And
went
went
to
red.
this. Yeah, red, and they had, blue and this white. I dig I dig all of them just because it has a script. I was so disappointed, when they first changed the uniforms in 2015. Because first of all, the logo, they basically asked Blake Griffin, to design a city, I mean a team logo, and all he did basically was copy the NBA Live logo from like 2006 and sent it in, and they approved it.
And obviously, though, that the team had to kind of change that branding because of Donald Sterling being
No
relieved of his
doubt.
duties, and they had to kind of start that first fresh chapter underneath Steve Ballmer's ownership.
That's why I never thought they would go back to the script logo, with the with it saying Clippers. I never thought they would go back to that or red jersey, because that's what they were in the 90s and early 2000s or in the 2000s. But I'm so happy that, like you mentioned, they're going back to their roots, going to a new place. It kind of gets me excited. Like, if there's a jersey big enough, I'll wear it. And then the court, I love it because I did want a red one, like the old sports arena,
Just
but
thank
I'll
God
take
there's no
this.
more black. Thank goodness.
Yeah, like everybody has a black alternate jersey. Everybody has three different floors, and who knows? There'll probably be, a city edition jersey or an earned playoff jersey that will be black.
Yep.
So
Second court
who knows?
design coming later with new City Edition uniforms, which I would think, though, James will say clips again with that other word mark that we saw in Chris's story.
By the way, this year's city edition, I think it is, where it just says clips and it's that
That is
navy blue.
literally the San Diego Clipper font that they used in that
Right.
jersey.
But the actual jersey look is like from the Washington Wizards when they had Gilbert Arenas. It
Navy
just
blue,
looks made up.
copper, yeah.
It just looks like, okay, you just copied that jersey and then you just put clips on it. So I didn't really like that. So I'm really excited about this because I want something that had a script that says Clippers for a long time. It's hard to find, everybody has the new stuff. But I just love this. It makes me want to like maybe go buy something, and I haven't because I know that they're going to eventually change. And lastly, I'll say this: I thought they were going to switch the name. I really
I
did,
think a lot of people were.
just to get away from the Sterling era, just to get away from the curse years, which has been every year since they moved or since they became the Clippers in '78. I just thought they're going to have a new identity. They're going to have that fight for LA new mentality. But I just like that they went back to the roots, like you mentioned. I just liked all of it. I really do. Now, hey, just win this year, and when you go to the new place, just have a streak of winning seasons and maybe some rings. The funny thing is that they have James Harden in the white uniform, and he's not going to be. He probably won't be on the team next year, so that's a little funny to me. And then I thought it was odd timing having this, you know, this opening here, because I'm thinking of the time, when I want to say the first year Mark Cuban, owned and was sitting on the sideline at Maverick games. They were still at the Reunion Arena in 99 2000
Yes.
or 2000 2001, whenever it was. The last season at Reunion Arena. Well, anyway, he would wear shirts with the new logo, the one they still have now, on the sideline. I'm thinking, what the hell is that on his shirt? Because it's not the old, green ball with the blue M and the cowboy hat. Um, so it's just funny to see that. So maybe Bomber, maybe you'll see him with this logo on his shirt or something. We'll find out tomorrow because guess what? It's the third edition of the Hallway series, the last season of it for Crypto.com Arena between the Lakers and Clippers. It will be a Clipper home game tomorrow night. So I'm hoping the reviews of this are good. I mean, people, if they don't know the Clipper history, and a lot of people don't because it was, horrible. But hopefully somebody tells them about these scripts. Hopefully, about the team name or the team colors of this. I'm just excited for these colors. I really like them.
Yeah, James, and I was going to kind of get to that FO front office sports, one of my lead entities that I read for Press Row. They actually interviewed Jillian Zucker, who's the business ops president for the Clippers, and actually it came up in a story that they had written about what is a Clipper. Obviously, I think I told the story a little bit, but I always thought they were named after the clippers you cut your toenails with when I was a kid, 25, 30 years ago. And then I obviously found out they were named for the Star of India. That's literally what they're named for, is the Star of India here in San Diego on the waterfront, here in San Diego at the Embarcadero, hence why they were called the Clippers, and the fact they've even kept the name for as long as they have. And I think FOS's writer, David Rumsey, actually asked Jillian, did you ever consider changing the name of the club? And Jillian said no. From all the fans that we had talked to, that they wanted to keep the Clipper name and branding because it's just been a part of their DNA for
Mm-hmm.
so long. But they wanted to have a new, again, new arena, new stadium means new chapter. And again, that's kind of what they're ushering in here, James, with this new branding again. And, to the point where, again, where the front office is saying, our fans said don't change the name, then that must be telling you something.
And then I think the thing was, hey, I saw on Instagram where they said, well, you asked for it. Here's a red jersey. I think for years everybody's wanting a red jersey back. They're sick of only the blue, mainly at home or black uniform. And shout out to my mom for telling me what a Clipper ship was back in the day, or else I would be having the same questions and kind of finding out maybe when I moved down here what a Clipper ship or why the name was what it was. So shout out to my mom for telling me that a long time ago.
And again, like I said, James, the Clippers and Rockets own a special place in my heart for the fact that, like I beat the drum on Monday, we don't see franchises who, leave a old market really embrace their past. Now, again, we've had the Carolina Hurricanes wear the Hartford Whaler throwbacks, one game every year. But like the Clippers and Rockets keeping the team name. Now, the Rockets obviously fit well again in Houston, again, Space City, USA,
Hmm.
the home of NASA. Like that totally fits, though. But then the Clippers, again, a Clipper ship going to Los Angeles again behind the Lakers. Again, there's no lakes in LA. There's no harbor there's no harbor for the Navy or for, the Clipper ship itself, like the Star of India, again, literally named for the Star of India here in San Diego. I would even think as well the San Salvador that Juan Cabrillo came over and he helped found San Diego back in the 1500s and stuff of that caliber. Like the name may not fit, but seeing organizations like the Rockets and Clippers though say, hey, we may not have started here, we may have moved in from different places, but we still want to honor our fan base and still honor our past roots, though. Again, like the Clippers going all the way back to Buffalo, wearing the Brave throwbacks. They've done, I think I've seen the Clippers do more San Diego themed merch and jerseys than that shim of a NFL franchise who left San Diego in 2017. And it really makes me happy to see that.
Yeah. The first sign of that, well, yeah, the first sign I saw was in the hardwood classics era. I think it was like 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. They were wearing those World Be Free, Bill
Powder
Walton,
blue
San
Clipper jerseys.
Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were wearing the white ones at home. Um, and then later on, they wore the baby blue Buffalo ones. They wore the orange ones like they did. They had white ones in 2019,
White
I
ones were
think.
sweet.
Yeah, of the buffalo and the stripe and all that, the bee or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one that I love, but I wish it wasn't the shirt jersey, was that Adidas one. It was like 2014, 13, 12, but it was literally the Pacific blue
The powder
pants,
blue with the red word mark. Yes.
and then the nautical shorts. It
Yes.
was
It's like in
I
San
love
Diego.
that one. And when they switched logos and uniforms, I was mad because I was like, that's the only one I love. I mean, the homes one, and the road one. It was basically the 90s and 2000s, but did up a little differently. But that Pacific blue, I love, and I wish, hopefully, maybe they'll get back to a Pacific blue like that. I know. I think also in 2019. No, I'm sorry, 2021. The year Kawhi didn't even play, they also had a Pacific blue with orange Clipper jersey that looked really good as well. Or I think they had it in 2019, 18 anyway.
It
But
may have been powder. I think it was powder blue, white lettering, orange trim, like what they would have
yeah,
worn here in San Diego, I think.
so I really like how they've done that. Now, to be fair, the Chargers, yeah, as much as I hate them, we all hate them. Their new jersey set from 2020, they do have that navy blue with the yellow. The new jerseys with the yellow pants, and the powder blue. That screams San Diego. But the problem is they're renting in LA. Simple as that. That's why we hate it.
Yeah, and it's more along the lines of like, who would have thought that the Houston Rockets would have dove all the way back into the time warp and pulled out the green and gold San Diego Rocket days?
Last
Like
season they did, yeah.
that's literally Elvin Hayes, Calvin Murphy, and my
Pat
dad
Riley.
playing. Yeah, and my dad literally, true story, would play pickup games with those guys at the PB Rec Center here when they were in San Diego. Like, just think
Wow.
about that for a second. And they pulled out those green and they were sharp, man. Like it was
Yeah.
the white jersey, the gold lettering, the green outline, the big fat like tricolored uh band around the shorts. Like
Hmm.
it was like full blown amazement. And it, and again, like I said, though, the Rockets and Clippers, for me at least, hold a special place in my heart for the fact of they have done more to touch base with their with San Diego than the infamous NFL team who left town and has never mentioned my city's name since then. I know, James, I'm going off tangent, but with that,
No, no. Yeah.
But
No, when you
yeah.
hear a bunch of people say that, like the former players, the fans, are like, they don't belong here.
Yeah, and I think it was funny that Antonio Gates, when he
Yeah.
was, I think he had his number retired, I think, by the franchise, and he gave like a long spiel about how his, how special his time was in San Diego, and everyone who was still at the game at halftime was like applauding, like, yes, this guy gets it. Get this team out of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But again, Clippers dropping a sweet logo, and there's a great folks story again. Jillian Zucker, the business ops president for the Clippers, was actually interviewed by FOS, uh, talking about the ins and outs. Again, it's very expensive to do a full blown rebrand, especially in the middle of a season. And she said it right though. We want to get the word out right now. Because they have to start designing the practice facility courts at the Dome. They have to start putting in the game court and the other courts. We need to get it out as soon as possible, get the merch out and stuff like that. But again, very, very nicely done job by the Clippers with their rebrand that, again, is coming up for next season. With that, James, the last topic I got to today on Press Row, court storming continuing to be an issue in college basketball, coming in wake of Duke men's basketball player Kyle Filipkowski, who was injured by the student section of Wake Forest on Saturday, I believe, after eighth-ranked Duke got beat by the Demon Deacons in ACC play, which has sparked more debate, though, about banning the practice. And this also led lead college basketball analyst Jay Billis on Monday's edition of First Take to say that it could easily be stopped by saying in part to just detain the fans and give citations or arrest, and court storming would stop right away. He also blamed the fans, the schools, and the media for encouraging the court storming or field storming acts, with fans feeling entitled. Schools like the attention, and of course the media loves the images of it actually happening. Billis also spoke about how conferences are now issuing fines, as is the case right now in the SEC, where they have dinged schools $100,000. Yet, though, when South Carolina stormed the court after they won a game, the president Demetrius ran on the floor and proceeded to promote him storming the court on his social media accounts. Also in agreement, folks, with CBS Sports basketball writer Seth Davis, who agreed with Billis and also said that court storming would never happen in the NBA because of the ramifications of arrest and handcuffs and how tight security is around those players. James, I literally, again, on Press Row on Monday, I thought of 4 instances of when field storming or court storming has gone haywire within the last 40 years. Cal Stanford, the band being on the field. LeGarrette Blount sucker punching the Boise State fan after Oregon got beat by the Broncos, and Chip Kelly.
That was a Bronco player.
And Chip Kelly also suspended Blount for the remainder of that season. Caitlin Clark, biggest name right now in women's college basketball, trampled by Ohio State fans after they got upset in Columbus. Now here, Duke and Kyle Filipkowski injured by Wake Forest players. We're also on the late night Sports Center. Bill Self talked at length about banning the practice, perhaps. There has been word per ESPN that the ACC will not be fining Wake Forest for storming the floor in wake of the injuries sustained. Duke's head basketball coach on the men's side, again, this happened on his watch, frantically ran in the middle of the fray to pull his player away from the students and the people flocking onto the floor after the game did conclude. James, I don't know though if there's a right way for this to come to an end, though. You can issue all the fines you want. Now, again, I think Jay Billis is right, though, James, but I don't know if it's more of a sense of entitlement on the fan base part. I more so think of bullet point 4.2.3. The schools like the attention when it happens, and sadly, the media loves the images. Like, let me throw a 5th one in there. Did we forget about when Notre Dame stormed the field during COVID when they beat Clemson, who was number 1 in college football 4 years ago?
I didn't know that.
There's 5 instances right there about it being wrong. And I believe the coach at the time, Ryan Day, frantically was trying to get his team, or Brian Kelly was frantically pulling his players away from the students because we cannot risk contracting COVID from these fans who are at this game. So, James, I actually laid out one simple solution. I'm tying in the actual version of football, that'd be soccer, the global game that everyone calls football, and how FIFA has taken a stand against the homophobic goalie chant. James, you know the
Mm-hmm.
word probably very well in Spanish lore, but they
Mm-hmm.
have been dinging countries like Mexico, not just fining the federation, but they have forced Mexico, for example, because of their fan base yelling the absurd and offensive slur, they forced them to play without fans.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you could easily set the bar so damn high where I think the next issue like this that happens, forget the fine, you impose a ban on the fans for coming to the game. Now again, that may seem harsh though, of like, well, you're going to rat out the whole fan base for just the kids for coming onto the court. Okay, then suspend the student section for a game. No students can come to the game. How about those who pay their money to come watch the game? The alumni, the boosters, average Joes like you and me. There has to be some sort of precedent set. Fines are one thing, I get that. But James, in wake, though, of Caitlin Clark, all-time women's basketball scorer, best thing going for college basketball right now on the women's level, she gets injured, thankfully not seriously, when a fan inadvertently runs into her after the Buckeyes beat Iowa in Columbus. Then on Saturday, or over the weekend, Kyle Filipowski sprains his ankle. And I saw the replay angle from
Yeah.
the scoreboard that saw a fan literally step on his ankle as he's walking away. Then they show the other angle of the head coach for Duke literally hauling ass to get his players off the court because of this bull rush of students coming onto the court. But again, James, there's no right way, I think, to do this still. But I think that Jay Billis, I agree with him, though, but I don't know, though, if it's more about entitlement for the fans, though. This falls on the school for wanting the attention. And also, Jay's right, though, that the media is to blame, though, too, for loving to share those images of this as well. But, James, your overall thoughts, though, what could be done maybe to perhaps maybe put a kibosh finally on the football field or basketball court being stormed after a victory in upset fashion in college athletics?
I watch a lot of Pac-12 college basketball, and it's a rarity when someone is ranked, other from like Arizona,
ASU.
UCLA, but not this year though. But when ASU would beat Arizona at Tempe, there was kind of a panic. And Bill Walton, I love when he does the games with Dave Pasch, because you learn about everything: English, science, history, math.
The great history of the city of San Diego,
Yeah,
California.
it's my favorite thing. Every Thursday and Saturday I make sure I'm watching because I want to learn something. But also he mentions whenever it happens, it's like, hey, where's the security? We
Yes.
have where their booth is right in center court,
Yes.
and everybody can get through. It's not like NBA security where there's literally a red coat like at Crypto.com Arena where there's a red coat on every sideline and there's multiple ones, right? It's not like NBA Finals where you have a rope around, you have tape around the sideline. But I think you have to do that in college basketball. Or I've seen in college basketball in the past where they have the student sections wait until the road team is off the floor, and then they allow people to come on. I've seen this in college football too, because it's tougher because you have to jump over a wall to get there, and there's not going to be any walls or gates like we've seen in like English soccer or Irish, Scottish soccer hooligans. We're not going to have gates. We're not going to have separate fans like that.
Just think of the barbed wire at Estadio Azteca in Mexico City with how that fan base down there gets really out of control. They have plexiglass and they have barbed wire to keep the hooligans in at Estadio Azteca.
It is a different animal, and that's why the game there is so respected and feared, literally. So I would just have those solutions where it's like, hey, you won't be able to arrest anybody because you're only going to have like 4 cops at the arena,
if that.
And then the security is like, like those Angel Stadium security or ushers where their senior citizens are about to be, they're not going to try to tackle these young kids. They can't. They could try to trip them, but they're not going to be able to corral, 1,000 kids coming down, and then it's just the domino effect. I love that game. Then everybody rushes the court. That's where you have a problem. But okay, the solutions are you're not going to stop it. You can only hope to contain it. Basically,
right.
like football.
That much I agree with 100%.
And the way you do it, you just have. You're not. First of all, you're not going to have. When the upset happens, you're not going to have the handshake line. You're just not, because the team that upset the road team is going to go crazy. They're going to celebrate. Maybe the coaches will give handshakes, but that's about it. So you can eliminate the handshake line and get the road team off the floor. And then when the cameras are off or late, once they sign off, then you have all the fans rush on. It just depends where you are, too, because look, the team that lost, look at Duke, right? They never have to do this at Cameron Indoor Stadium, right? It's rare when they have a court rushing because they're usually ranked higher than the other team. Now there is incidents, where North Carolina is ranked higher, but in a rivalry like that, you should not rush the floor. It shouldn't be that way.
Makes no sense.
So the fact that this happened to Duke, I knew kind of Jay Billis would be on the Duke side. I just see homerism in that way. And then the feelings after the game is like, damn, we lost. We're Duke. And I can see the kind of head coach, John Shayer, I think his name is. He's a former player at Duke who took over, I think, for Coach K a couple of years ago. But you kind of see like how pissed he was. Not only did he lose the game, but now, my All-American is out there getting bombarded, and I got to go save him. Meanwhile, I'm just pissed at everything right now. So it's just like human nature. Yeah, everything's going on at one time. The thing is, too, okay, Caitlin Clark, I know she was running off. I don't know if she flopped or not. I don't know. I couldn't tell. But it's a point where it's like, hey, let's not even try to have that happen in the first place. Let's have no contact with the players and the fans. So all you can do, like I said, just have the fans come on after everybody leaves. I couldn't tell if that player, Flipowski, like put a forearm out, but I would too. I literally would have both forearms out, and I'm running the hell out of there, literally. Because you never know if someone has... Well, you can't bring weapons in like you used to, but, they could have, like, something to hit you with. You never know. Even, like, the slightest little thing could agitate you, and then you're going off on a fan. We've seen that at the lower D1 schools, where I think it was... God, I don't know if it was North Texas or North Dakota, something like that. Big Sky Country, I think it was. Probably a decade ago, where the fans rushed on, and then the road team just started throwing hands with the fans. So, again, all I could think of, you get the road team out, then you bring everybody on, but then you won't have that media image. So I think that's all you could do. It's hard to find everyone. It's hard to arrest everyone. I mean, you can find the university, I should say, but it's hard to arrest all those people.
And that, James, goes to Jay's point, though, is that the SEC has rules in place that if you storm the court, there is a $100,000 fine. The West Coast Conference fined Santa Clara $5,000 for storming the court when they upset Gonzaga a couple weeks ago. So, there's fines in place, but it's going to the school. But I think, though, it goes to Jay's point, though, that the schools will pay the fine because they still like that attention.
Yeah. Again, I just think it's what I said earlier, where it's just a thing where it's like, hey, just prevent it by having the road team leave. And then if people can still see the reaction by the fans, you just show it after. I've seen it before in college football. they stay with the crowd. They have the overhead shot from the blimp or from the top of the stadium, where at the big house when they beat Ohio State for the first time in 2021. In a while, they had Mr. Brightside playing, and everybody was loving it. They stuck around forever. They waited for Ohio State to leave the field, I want to say, and they celebrated. So they did a great job with that. It just has to be handled in a way that I think that would work. Just either have more security, but then the universities would have to pay for that. It's a mess, but it's preventable. Like I said, just get the road team out, then have everybody come on. You'll still get the images. I think it's a win-win for everybody, literally.
Yeah, I think of utmost importance is getting the road team free of harm. I mean,
Yeah.
you can wait like the extra minute, 2
Yeah.
minutes, 3 minutes at most to get the opposition away, because I think, James, you don't want to have a LeGarrette Blount situation happen again, where he goes out there and just cold clocks the student and the player on Boise State
Mm-hmm.
after the game when the crowd is
Oh, that's
convening.
right.
They're
Oh,
convening. They're convening on them and stuff. But James, I really think though still that the poster child though of what can go wrong with the court or field being stormed, I think, though I know it wasn't students, but you can't tell me, man, that the Stanford band crashing the game against the Bears in '82 is not like the focal point or like the poster child. Like, this is what can happen if you
mhm.
choose to go out there and storm the field, whether your team wins or loses, because of the trumpet player who got absolutely railroaded in the end zone by the ball carrier who won the game for Cal over Stanford, and up there in Berkeley. And I think though that, like I said, James, we've named Cal Stanford in the band in '82. We've named LeGarrette Blount, sucker punching the fan and player at Boise State. We have talked Caitlin Clark. We have talked Duke and Wake Forest. But we also, James, brought up Clemson losing to Notre Dame during the COVID season in 2020, where there was images from the blimp of NBC of the fans storming the field in South Bend and Brian Kelly having a heart attack, it seemed like, to get his guys away from the fans, because we can't risk in getting COVID. And literally, like within 2 hours, I think, or a day after that game, of course, the COVID cases at Notre Dame went up because of them storming the field in South Bend. So, James, what do you probably think, though, would be like the poster child instance that we've talked about on this program about what you believe can actually go wrong? Is it Cal Stanford? Is it Clemson Notre
No,
Dame during COVID? Is it Caitlin Clark? Is it Duke in Wake Forest? Or is it even LeGarrette Blount in Boise State?
man, I think okay. Let me add one more.
Go for it.
I remembered this a while back. There was Nebraska football playing, I want to say, at Missouri. Now, this was the late 90s, I want to say,
Mm-hmm.
when Nebraska started to descend down. Okay,
Decline,
they
yeah.
weren't as good as they were in like 95. This was later on. Okay, so Missouri upset Nebraska. The fans ran on, and the Cornhuskers were going off. And this one player I remember just, and the fan wasn't in the way either. He was running on the field, minding his business basically. And the Nebraska player literally just threw a punch and just knocked the guy down and out probably. But I remember that because it was all over the news back then.
Right.
And it was a cameraman on the field who caught that, like right in the line, right in his shot. So that started it for me, where it's like, man, this is really dangerous. Okay, then you fast forward to what, 2009, 8, when Oregon went to Boise in that
Oh, nine.
non-conference game, '09, and not only LeGarrette Blount had two incidents in that game where, okay, he was, having words because the Boise State player kept egging him on, like, we beat you, ha ha ha, all that crap. No player in any sport wants to hear that after they lose, unless they don't care. Anthony Rendon. Um, so, and then, I remember, yeah, LeGarrette Blount boom, just hit him. And then the Boise State coach is like, no, why did you, egg him on? And then, yeah, he's going off the field. He's kind of surrounded by his coaches, but not really. He was kind of left alone. And they had the fans like right near the gate where the players walk off. That's just the way college stadiums are. It's not, NFL stadiums where you have a tunnel. It's wide open, basically. All you have is a gate right there. So fans were egging Blunt on, seeing what the hell he did. And then he swung on them. That's when I thought, okay, this is a mess. They got to have better security, and now there is. I mean, look at the NBA. Whenever there's a little skirmish or anything like that, they have like 4 security guards on each team dressed up in suits out there right away. They saw the mouse at the Palace, which
I was
is the
going to
worst.
just say that. I think that they learned their lesson from the Malice in the Palace.
Once that happened, then all the security boosted up. I think that was the worst when it comes to fans versus players. That was the worst. Okay,
Still is by far and away.
I think once you saw that happen, everything got boosted up security wise. And in college, though, it's different because they're just kids. They're harmless. And now they only have one hand open because everybody's on their phone taking video. It's not like back in the day where they're trying to egg on the players. And if they do, again, get the players off. I will give 82 a pass because back then there wasn't protocol. Like, stay off the field. Even though the play isn't over, you see 000s on the clock, still don't go on the field. It was nothing like that. The band didn't know that at Stanford, I think. They didn't practice that. They didn't know that. And then you had incident,
but it still though gave us one of the greatest broadcast calls of all time, though, in Joe Starkey.
The maybe the best play ever. It's called the play in college football. But we had incidents in the AFL in I think at Fenway Park back in the day when the Patriots played there.
The Boston Patriots.
The Boston Patriots, yeah. A fan literally came out to defend and block a pass to win a game for the Patriots. It was right at the goal line. And like I said, there was a pass maybe by the Houston Oilers. I don't recall whom. But literally a fan came out, knocked the pass, and went back in the stands. And then you see the 1958 NFL Championship game where Michi scores, all the fans run out and try to get the football. So there's an evolution of fan control, but that's professional. In college, it's still a work in progress. And it's a rarity it happens, but it's only in upsets. You only see it in those 2 sports. I would love to see it in volleyball. That would be awesome. But it's just inevitable. You're going to have these incidents. But like I said, there's procedures that you can have. But you're not going to ban fans, like you mentioned, because of the revenue and the money and the noise. It would look bad with the whole student section empty. It would send a message, but it wouldn't last because you'll have a new student section, a new class, a new school year come in and say, well, we don't remember that. We weren't part of that. So we can do whatever we want. So it just depends on the school, the conference, NCAA, which never gets anything right. They just have to get it right. And again, just get the road team off. But I think it all went down from from 04, from the Mouse at the Palace.
Yeah.
That's when everything changed, I think.
And if you want to throw one more instance of players and fans going at it, just think about Mike Milbury and the Boston Bruins climbing over the bench at the Garden. And Mike Milbury, who's only known for beating the absolute crap out of a Ranger fan with his own shoe, for God's sakes. Like, if you want to talk about player and fan interactions going haywire, just think about Mike Milbury assaulting a New York Ranger fan with his own shoe, for heaven's sakes.
One more was 10-cent beer night at Cleveland Stadium.
Oh, yes.
Because we saw pictures of that.
For you, sadly.
Pictures of that, when the Ranger players were trying to get off the field and literally fighting those drunk fans. You had disco night with Bill Veeck and Harry Carey. But that was in between double headers. They couldn't get the second game going. But again, I think it just comes to generations where it's just like, hey, we're gonna do whatever the hell we want. Now in college, it's like, hey, it's kind of controlled in a way. It's only when we upset someone. So I don't know. Again,
I
just
don't
get the
know
road
either.
people off and go
Yeah.
about it, and you'll still get your camera time. Your university will still get the looks and the views. And just shame on that South Carolina. You said the AD or the president did that.
The president, Emeritus,
Oh
I
my,
think,
emeritus.
literally storms the court and is like, "Hey, look at me, look at me," and it puts it on freaking Facebook and Twitter and
Oh my god.
IG and his Snap story. Like, come on,
Back to
and that's why
school.
and that's why I said that the schools don't care because stuff like that will happen and they will pay the fine. And
Yeah.
again, I think Jay Billis was right, like 90% spot on, but I don't think it's the fans being entitled. It's more like the schools will pay the fine. I mean, you literally had the school president, like number 2 in line, hey, 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 look at me. We beat somebody, and literally like promoting this behavior, like just kind of sets that precedent maybe to where fans may feel entitled, maybe, but it's also about, that the media also enjoys putting out that content. So I can see Jay Billis's, stance though on that. But
Oh
again,
yeah.
again, maybe I might be off base though about like, maybe a 1-game ban from a student section because it kind of got out of control. But again, I just think though, when you've had 2 instances though of this happening, one of them happens to the biggest name in women's college
Mhm.
basketball right now, who's now the all-time leading scorer at the college level. She's like 98 points away from tying Pistol Pete for the all-time record
Mhm.
in college basketball, men's or women's hoops. Like, that could have really, spoiled the Iowa season if that was much worse than what it could have been, though. And then, like James said, though, again, this only happens to Duke if they're on the road. Like, they don't have to worry about this
Mhm.
ever happening at Cameron Indoor, or even UNC doesn't have to worry about this happening when they're at home either, because they're always in the top 25 and stuff like that. But certainly, I think you could probably at least look at it, but there's not going to be a proper system. Like, you could try like banning the students for a game or imposing a no fan ban for 1 game and just say, everyone, has to just take the brunt end of the stick though, because someone ruined it for the rest of us out there,
Mhm.
and I know that may be harsh though, but again, the fines are not enough though. I would think you'd
No.
have to probably begin to look at maybe more security, bring in the local police, bring in the local sheriff's department, the local public safety sector in to just kind of, maybe just try, because you never know, because I think though, James, I look though at like you said about soccer. I think about derbies. I think about the rivalries in MLS like Portland and Seattle, Galaxy San Jose, New York and the Red Bulls and New York City FC, Galaxy LAFC. Literally, there is riot teams and SWAT teams at the stadium to keep the fans separated from each other because it gets that out of control over a sporting event. I know it's like, whoa, why is this happening at a sporting event? Because soccer is a whole different animal. I know
Mhm.
we're comparing college athletics to soccer, but I think about derbies. I think about rivalries in soccer. I think about my time when I was over in Italy, how every sports bar in Italy had giant signs at the front entrance. No football jerseys allowed because
Wow.
you walk into the wrong bar, my man. What do you think's happening?
Debates and fights.
More so option B over option A, though,
Yeah.
and things like that. But certainly, again, I don't think that there's a right way to go about this. It kind of is what it is right now at this rate, sadly. But, James, before we close out, man, maybe give us a topic to throw out real quick before we get out of here for the night here pretty soon.
Man. I, you know, last week I was really, yeah, whatever. Last week, yesterday, day before, I was literally watching a lot of college basketball, and I think we have a week of conference play until we
Yes,
have the conference tournament,
next
and then
week.
we have literally March Madness,
Woo!
and it's kind of bittersweet. Again, like I mentioned, I watched USC defeating UCLA, and I had a question for you about this. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you know how it's a rivalry. And when I saw the records of the schools, right, UCLA was 14-12. USC, I think, was 10-16. And my friend kept saying, well, hey, that's an upset. But I said to him, I debated kind of with him just for fun. I know I hate debating, but just for fun, I did this. It was just me and him at the house, talking sports. So I was just like, you know what? I think you're wrong on that. Whenever it's a rivalry, you throw upsets out of the window
Totally.
because we see in the NFL, I know you don't, but we see in the NFL where it's like, hey, the Panthers could be playing, the Saints and nobody's watching, but it's considered a divisional rivalry.
Yes.
Oh, that's awful. I would never watch that. But literally, it is a rivalry or it's a divisional foe. You throw the record books out. It doesn't matter about any of that because it's, those two small fan bases going at it. One lesser than the other, of course. But my question to you, okay, when you have a USC, UCLA, when you have in multiple sports, right?
Right.
When you have a Lakers Celtics, a Yankees Red Sox, like in NFL football, whatever. Does it matter? Do you call an upset whenever the lesser record beats the other one, which is the main rival? Do you call that an upset, or it's just part of the rivalry? Like anything can happen, or is it considered a real upset?
I don't consider it a real upset, just for the fact of like if it's a rivalry, records go out the window. It doesn't matter how good or bad a team's playing. It's still a rivalry. Like literally thinking of like Ducks and Kings in the NHL, like Anaheim struggling this year, not having a good season, sadly. Still a rivalry when they play the Kings. It's still a rivalry when the Kings play the Sharks. It's again, the records go out the window and you focus on just that game. So, yeah, if the Ducks do get the better of the Kings one night, I wouldn't call it an upset. I just think it's just a matter of everyone's, testosterone level increases because you're playing the big bad rival more than it being an upset, I think.
Wasn't that on Saturday? And did the
Yes.
Ducks win?
LA ended up winning in a shootout. Great game, though.
That's right. I did. My brother was there. He took a picture of those Laker banners, and I said, "Can you take a picture of that candy ass in season tournament banner for me? I just want to keep that." And he did. I was like, "Thank you. I want to send it to all my."
Please make that your phone wallpaper just for the hell of it.
I should. So I said, "Hey, I'm going to send this to all those Laker fans and say that doesn't belong up there."
Oh, I hope one of the hosts of the Thursday Three Ring Circus program got that picture too, hopefully, so he can, hang that somewhere in his studio somewhere in the Bay Area.
I just don't know how he's a Laker fan among all the greatness that the Warriors have given him all those years up there. That's just weird.
I mean, it's also the same co-host, folks, who thought that Callum McClurg won the dunk contest for the second straight year.
Callum, I've been holding that back. Dude, that's another thing. How would you fix All-Star Weekend? Okay, I had no problem with the rookie sophomore game, whatever they call it now.
Yeah.
No problem with that. It was actually fun because actually I think the opponents, a couple of them like got into it like for competitiveness. So I'm thinking, man, you don't see that in the All-Star game.
Didn't
Everybody
Victor Wembanyama's team lose to a bunch of G Leaguers though too on All-Star?
That's the problem. Yeah, that is.
That is a bit of a problem.
Okay, then you had the Saturday night that was just confusing. In the skills challenge, they have all these different things now. It's a load.
I like when they did the obstacle course though on Saturday. That was always cool.
Yeah, but there's added things now. Like I wasn't used to certain things. And then the 3-point contest, there's like a starry, magic or what they call it,
like
starry
the money ball basically.
Money ball. But you have all the racks, and then they had half of a rack. It was like a rib restaurant. They had half of a rack here, full rack here,
full rack here. Get your half rack here. Yeah.
But you had the starry ball by itself, and the scoring is multiplied because of the extra balls or the extra points. And then the dunk contest is officially dead.
Oh, it's been dead forever.
No doubt. You have two G Leaguers in it, which I really hate it. Credit to
And one
Jalen
of them,
Brown.
and again, the guy who wins it, not related to me, but he's in the G League again. He was with Delaware last year. Now he's with Lakeland, Florida.
And there's a reason he is. It's like he's not going to compete with the NBA players. Not as well, I guess. I do give Jalen Brown credit of Boston of participating. And then there was Jaime Jaquez. He had a great Mexico tribute, but his dunks were a taquito short of a plate. It was just really bad. I didn't like it. There was nothing about it. Like Jalen Brown, again, credit he was in it, but he literally caught a alley oop from his teammate Jason Tatum in a nice fur coat. And there was an influencer
and jumped over a guy sitting in a chair.
An influencer, probably like shorter than you and maybe taller than I, just literally, taking a picture of it, just jumping over him, sitting in a chair. That's nothing. And then everybody jumps over Shaq now. And that's how McClung won the dunk contest. And then the All-Star game, again, the commissioner, like I mentioned, I think on Sports Minute.
Yes.
He's getting ran up on. Everybody's running him over. And he finally had enough. Like I think we all mentioned. I don't know why I'm ranting about this now. I did on Sports Minute. But it just kind of accorded with me right now, since you mentioned your last name is not the same as the other one. Where it's like, man, Adam Silver, he finally got pissed. You could tell they scored a whopping 212 points. I had to watch that video the other day. I showed my friend. I was like, yeah, he's pissed because he didn't want a unspirited game. No competition. Everybody's throwing alley oops. 60-foot shots. Yeah. And I'm just thinking to myself, how the hell can you fix this? For me, again, I mentioned you have like 3-on-3s, 2-on-2s, 1-on-1 competitions. But Saturday night is just like maybe you have I don't know, out USA versus the world for an All-Star game, since there's so many great international players. I'll take that in the All-Star game. I do like that they went back to East and West, but it didn't matter about the game. Now, KD, I love him because he mentioned, hey, I want to wear our team's jerseys again in the All-Star game.
Yes.
But the NBA won't go for it. They need that merchandise. They need that all-star jersey merchandise, and there has to be a different one other from putting a patch on your team jersey. But Calvin, I just ask you, how can they fix the NBA All-Star Weekend, or is it unfixable? Is it FUBAR? Is it like the NFL Pro Bowl games? Well, now games where it's like you can't have competitiveness because nobody wants to get injured. Is it just done? And if so, how do you fix it?
Now, I said on Press Row the day after the All-Star game that it's unfixable. The NBA and NFL are at the bottom of my barrel when it comes down to ranking the All-Star games for all of North American pro sports. Again, I still think, despite baseball's issues dating back 22 years ago with the tie game in Milwaukee, it still is the purest form because it keeps tradition alive. It has AL and NL. There's no gimmicks. Now, yes, the rosters are probably bloated because I'm one of the very few who believes, though, that every team in the All-Star game should have one player there, whether they've won 57 games at the All-Star break or they've won 25. I mean, it's a showcase of the league's best players who may not play for the Dodgers and the Yankees and the big name ball clubs out there, which is why I've been firmly on that boat, though, that all 30 clubs or X number of teams in your league, one guy has to be there because you're showcasing the best of your whole league, and not all your best players, though in baseball's case, sadly, not all of them play for the Dodgers this season. There's still good players in San Diego and New York and San Francisco and Pittsburgh and Kansas City and Washington, D.C. So that's why I think baseball still ranks number one. Now, again, I made the phony baloney, perhaps blasphemous declaration that I believe and thought that Major League Soccer was number two because their philosophy is simple. we're going to take the best players of our 29, soon to be 30 teams in 2025. We're going to put them together to play an all-star game against a team from overseas, like Manchester United, Wrexham, AS Roma. They're going to play against Man City. They're going to play some big-name overseas soccer team because we want to see, and we want a actual measuring stick. Where is American soccer in 2024, 2025? Now, I don't know
Yeah.
where the All-Star game is going to be this year. I believe the game is going to be axed because of the Olympics this year in Paris. So there won't be an ASG for the MLS season this year. I do know it was in LA, I believe, the year after COVID. Then I believe it was held in St. Paul recently. And I believe it was held, I want to say, in Nashville or Columbus. I might be wrong on that. But they're number two because they are, again, literally taking their best pool of talent and playing against a Paris Saint-Germain, Nottingham Forest, some big name European or global soccer powerhouse to, again, measure, okay, where's American soccer at? I learned that from a coworker of mine who is a big soccer fan. And he said that's why MLS does it that way. They did do East and West at one point, but they do it this way to measure where is American soccer at on the field, but also how's the attendance? How are people responding to soccer in America mainly more than in Canada and stuff like that. Then third, I put the NHL, despite the fact that I had my reservations of I don't like the draft format. I don't like when you don't have that tradition or that some sort of resemblance of tradition. Like I said on Press Row, and I think on Sports Minute, James, it was a hell of a time trying to follow Ducks forward Frank Vetrano when he played in Toronto for the All-Star game because he was playing for a team that was led by Michael Bublé or Justin Bieber or
Oh,
Tate
that's
McRae.
right.
So they had like the honorary captain, and they drafted players from the pool. So they picked like the four best captains of, I think, the first place teams in each division, I guess. So they did like four teams, I think. But they had to do this, whole Canadian celebrity swing of Bublé and Bieber and McRae and whoever else they had. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but who's Frank Vetrano playing for? I don't really care about Crosby or Ovechkin or McDavid. Like, where is Vetrano playing? As a fan of the Anaheim Ducks, I was more worried about that or concerned about that. But still, though, the difference, though, James, they still were playing to a competitive nature. Now they were playing 3-on-3 like they would in overtime of a regular season game, but I still saw guys blocking shots, poke checking the puck, knocking a guy's stick off the puck, though, but they weren't out here body checking each other and beating the crap out of each other. But there was still some resemblance, though, of defense being played and some resemblance of competitive fire and nature being there, though I know it wasn't quite a full-blown hockey spectacle. Then after that, it's a tie between the NFL and the NBA. Like I literally put out there, and you were like, absolutely not. Just cancel the game and have the players be named all-stars and forget about it. Give everyone a week vacation and then come back and play again. Because, I mean, from what we saw, James, on Sunday, and the fact that you brought up, though, that fans booed during the game, that better be sounding alarm bells in that NBA front office right here and right now. No questions asked.
The Saturday they booed for the dunk contest and the NBA All-Star game. And I know it was in Indy. And again, the one thing I had to bring up the other day
It was a COVID ordeal.
Yeah. The fact that they played the All-Star game
at
the
Gamebridge and had everything else at Lucas Oil Stadium.
And had the weekend at this football stadium with more attendance there than at the Pacer Arena. That just shows me something where it's like, hey, they're not really watching that. You can have people come out for the All-Star weekend, for Saturday, but it's still not enough to fill up the whole Lucas Oil Stadium. Maybe, one half or half sideline there, but it's not what it used to be. You could just tell. I forget next year where it's going to be. I know in 2026 it would be at Intuit Dome, and I can only hope in that time that
the 2025 All-Star Game will be held at Chase Center in San Francisco, California.
That's right. Okay, it's got to be better there because you have two new venues. They're back on the West Coast again. You got to make it a spectacle somehow. And I go back to Kobe, RIP, where he talked about the game and how competitive it is because you're playing against everyone who wants to beat you and wants to ascend over you. And you're literally playing the best of the best, so you have to be the best. Not in his words. I'm just getting what he said, basically.
James, I think the only thing I would assume could help, and we discussed it on Sports Minute last Wednesday, it's simple. No, not the money factor. Go back to the target score. Don't make it a full-blown four-quarter game. Play to 145, play to 150, and then call it a game.
That helped the 2020 All-Star game. That really did. I was really intrigued by that, and I watched the replay of that because I was coming back from Old Town. Shout out Cafe Coyote.
Yes.
So I remember watching that. I was like, you know what? I love this target score. And you know where they got it from, right? The basketball tournament, TBT, in the summer.
TBT.
They have those old college players play for a team and they go for money. Literally, they have to go back to that and make it where they would make more money somehow, the winner, East or West. But I watch TBT every year, and I just love that. It's literally, I root for those guys more than those NBA players. Literally, I really, really do. And the big three, I root for them more than the NBA players. It's sad, but damn it, it's true.
So how about we would do this? We play two halves. First half ends after one team hits 62 points. So I took 124 in honor of Kobe still. 124 points total. One half you play to 62. The next half you play to 62. You get 124. You get the W.
That's perfect because the award is named after Kobe. The MVP award. I think that'd be perfect. I'm down for that.
And I think, James, that'd be the only remedy would be target score has to come back to fruition.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Anything to say, hey, we have to buckle down on defense. You know, we have to stop them from scoring.
You have to have at least some form of strategy involved, not just heaving up shots from three-quarter court.
And we can't have someone get fired and that intern head coach be that head coach of the All-Stars like we had with Doc Rivers.
I hate to say that is an utter disgrace.
We had to have oh God, I should know this. The coach of Cleveland.
Adrian.
No. The second place Cavaliers. It's Bickerstaff.
Maybe Bickerstaff. Yeah.
Yeah, he should have been the coach. I forget. God, I don't know if it was Pat Riley. Yeah. So the year Magic got Paul Westhead fired in 81-82, Pat Riley was the head coach, and he was just an intern. Now you can see that because there was games apart. There was many games apart from November to February or January back then. But this was like 2 weeks before. Ridiculous. Horrible.
Yeah, my only solution would be target score, honestly. I think it would be just target score would have to be what do you do again. And I think that, yeah, you had a 14% increase in TV viewership, but I mean, how many people tuned out, though, when they saw the scoreboard read 211 or when they hit 200 points?
I'll tell you what I was doing. I was paper shredding, mainly during commercials. I was on my tablet, and I wasn't even watching the original telecast with Brian Anderson, Candace Parker,
Ali LaForce, Reggie Miller.
Ali and Reggie are awesome, definitely. I love that crew, but I wanted to hear Chuck, Charles Barkley,
and Draymond Green,
Taylor Rooks, and Draymond Green, because anything Charles Barkley will do, I will listen to. So I did like that part of it, and that's the only reason why.
Watching him play golf.
Yeah, because they were comparing golf swings, and then they also had, I think, some people come up and talk to him. I want to say or whatever, but that's the only reason I didn't have it on mute. Is because they had, Chuck and Dre going at it back and forth. And then another thing, I was watching old All-Star games, and it was literally, back then it was more competitive. They literally stopped players from scoring. They were taking sound shots. Now they did get out and run on the break. like, Michael Jordan got an alley-oop from someone, or Magic would, go down court, find Kareem, or find, Worthy, or Tom Chambers in '87, or whomever. It was literally back and forth. Like, we're gonna run fast breaks. We're gonna end it on a hard dunk. We're gonna try to block shots. We're gonna, dunk hard on someone like Shaq. It was personal for David Robinson back in '95. It was personal that
The
Shaq had to
Admiral.
do that against the Admiral. Um, so things just have to be personal again. But I feel like with social media, with all that, the players are already validated. Like, they don't have to prove anything. Like, I'm an all-star. I'm here. So what? It's awful. I think
And,
social media has ruined everything in a way.
and James, you led me down a rabbit hole. I think touched base on the Monday episode of Press Road, the day after this debacle of an All-Star game, is I know a lot of people absolutely cringe when they see players of opposing teams hug each other before a game. Like in baseball, we see this all the time. Like, they're tired of like it becoming a college frat party. Like, I get it, but like you just said though, social media is a thing. It's corporate money that they have though. They have their endorsements. They do a lot of, a lot of these guys probably train together over the offseason. I've heard so many stories, James, of hockey players who have gotten into fights together or have gotten into a fight and they apologized to the guy in the penalty box because the guy on the other team was in this other guy's wedding party, for example. And I've
Wow.
heard stories about that. Or guys will ask, hey, how the wife and kids doing? Are you going to go back home for the holidays? Like, I get that you don't like that, but this is, in fact, though, James, like you were talking about, soft, lazy, call what you want, though. But it's a new era, though, that we're in, though, where
Hmm.
the web is at our disposal 24/7. Money is rolling in from companies for corporate functions and endorsements. But James, what do you think about that? Maybe about that sentiment, perhaps about maybe sports becoming way too much of a big frat party for these athletes.
What was funny? I can think of two things. So I mentioned Magic Johnson. Uh, so back in '88, the finals, it started off nice between Magic and Isaiah Thomas. If you recall, they had I think, a handshake and a kiss on the cheek for each other in the first game at the Forum. Um, but then when the series shifted to the Pontiac Silverdome, Magic gave a hard foul to Isaiah, and then it became like a lyrical competition. No more kisses, no
Yep.
more handshakes, because it was the highest stake of the
Yes.
NBA, winning the
Larry
world
O'Brien's on the
championship.
line. Yes.
Yeah. So it's funny how players, I think, conducted themselves back then, where it's like, okay, we'll do a little bit of that, but when it's game time, I'm
That's all.
trying to
It's all
destroy
over.
you.
Yeah.
Kobe
You put it
said,
on
look,
hold. Yeah.
for these 48 minutes when we're on the floor, I'm just trying to destroy you. Um, Bernard King, the former Knick, he was great off the court with everyone, but on the floor, he never really showed emotion. He always had that stoic stare. He would go at opponents, with no remorse, no regard for human life. He
Okay, Kevin Harlan.
Michael Jordan, he made everything personal just for motivation.
I took that personally.
Yeah. So now you see players, and KD, he does some of that, but then he hurts himself in social media with the burner accounts. I really respected LeBron James when everybody was getting on him for being with Miami. And then he had that stare, and you knew it was just over. Then he would go on and take the
Kobe
game over,
biting the jersey.
and you knew that one. Um, just, I think things have changed now, where it's like, also the tenacity of defense is gone, right?
Yes.
It's shooting threes, it's setting picks, shooting threes. Long are the days gone of post ups and getting closer to the baskets. No more centers that are Hakeem or Shaq or even Ewing. Everybody. Now, I love Jokic. I love him because he's like a point guard out there. Embiid, Carl Anthony Towns, they'll be out there shooting threes. And I cringe every time Rudy Gobert shoots a three. like I mentioned every time on Sports Minute, get your ass down in the paint and
Yes.
rebound or
Stay
post up,
there.
slam dunk, whatever you got to do. It's just, and then when you look at society, it's kind of different now. Just because social media, you have to be nice,
Yep.
or if somebody gets at you, you have to get back at them just for the clout. I can remember. I'll end it with this. I remember a football player, NFL Films was doing a documentary on someone, and he was it was of course a defensive player, probably a defensive lineman. I can't recall whom. I'm in off season mode. He literally would, destroy your world, tackle you however he could, however he would. But then the next moment, he would help you up and ask you how your family is. How's the kids and all that. And I just feel like we're at that point where it's just like, hey, I'm doing this for me and my family. I'm trying to be as nice as I can. And I'm not going to go as hard on the opponent. That Mamba mentality, that Jordan killer mentality, whatever the case was, that's all gone now. It's buddy buddy. Even what was the finals this year? It was like Jimmy Butler and
Miami and Denver.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't see the real Jimmy Butler. It was only to get past tournament before the playoffs, 7 through 10. I forget what they call it. That dumbass tournament. That was only when you play a tournament. That was the only reason why. The only time you saw Jimmy Butler like really put on the tunnel vision and just be like, "Hey, I'm guiding my team to the actual playoffs because we're stuck in this playing tournament." LeBron did the same thing. But when it came to the finals, I didn't really see that from Jimmy Butler. It was just weird. Again, it may be the endorsements, the social media thing, where it's like, hey, I have to be nice to everyone. I can't really say certain things, even though I want to. It just goes back to now, everyone has eyes on you. And you can't have that same killer mentality, or you're considered too tough. The whole masculinity thing. That's just not popular nowadays. You have to have leeway to be, softer, and that will attract more people to you. I think that's the problem with competition. Now, I know that's not everybody, because I know when I play in my little ass softball tournament at Halo's in the infield, I was going hard as hell. And I didn't care about buddy and all that. Then I realized, oh yeah, I'm at a softball tournament. It doesn't matter. And then I felt like one of those NBA players now who doesn't care.
James, there was one more story I wanted to get to. I didn't realize that it was we're already 17 minutes past the midnight hour here on now a Tuesday morning here. It's all good, James. I'm literally off work from until Friday this week after a long weekend of activity. But I read a story on Bleacher Report. I think I sent to the C2C host chat fairly recently. I don't get this, man. Scottie Pippen, Luke Longley, Horace Grant have embarked now on a tour in Australia to further dispute their portrayal and the portrayals, I guess, of the ESPN Plus documentary series of The Last Dance, portraying Michael Jordan and the Bulls teams of the 1990s. These three players have embarked on a trip through Tanzania and other parts of Australia to further, I guess, push Scottie Pippen's claims against the documentary and how he's been perceived. I know he's put a book out about, his side of the story when it comes out to the portrayals of him from MJ's accounts, along with how the documentary was. Now, James, like I said, though, man, probably on here, maybe on some old networks, though, is as someone who grew up in the middle of the Jordan dynasty. Again, I was born 30 years ago and didn't get to see Michael at his pinnacle. I saw him with the freaking Wizards, for God's sake, when I was becoming a fan of sports. And, I remember him with the Wizards and then Space Jam. But
Mhm.
James, I don't understand though why that this is still an ongoing soap opera. Now Scottie Pippen has dragged in the man in the middle, Luke Longley, and Magic Great and Bulls Great Horace Grant into this whole fray now to go on like this crusade tour beginning in Australia, for God's sakes, to promote, I think, Scotty's book that he wrote like
Ugh,
after The Last Dance came out. And
yeah,
now he's dragged two former Bull teammates into this whole fray and fracas to further like crap upon the documentary. And I think even further try to ruin Michael Jordan's legacy in some way
can't.
from those Bulls teams in the 90s and even his ownership of the Hornets at one point. But James, is it time for Scotty and these guys to just give it up already, or what do you think?
Okay, so thank you for telling me where those shows were because I was trying to figure it out. So Luke Longley, I think, is Australian, correct?
I believe so.
Maybe
I know he
that's why
played
it
at
was
UNM though.
there. The other country, I can't tell you why it's there. Maybe Scotty just has a bunch of fans there because I know he lost a lot of fans here.
So from what I gathered from BR as well, it's apparently Scotty, and I don't know if it's Scotty himself, but there is a deal, I think, that Scotty, Longley, and Horace are having. They have some weird like partnership with the Professional Australian Basketball League, and that
Yeah,
the
okay.
league is actually helping promote this tour of, I think, Pippen's book and this whole entire three-ring circus of them trying to further dispute and just kind of in a way shit upon Michael Jordan in a way.
So, okay, it goes back to something again. Charles Barkley says, "I listen very deeply. Everything is good until the book comes out."
And
Um,
here we are.
and of course, Barkley had his thing with Jordan because of Jordan or Barkley's comments when Jordan was running the Wizards and the Bobcats. So Jordan takes everything personally, of course.
That's
So
what I
that's why
was.
they have their beef. I think Barkley said some things about Tiger Woods, and now they rarely talk. They'll have little friendly conversations, but it's not like the same. Scottie Pippen had his run-ins with Barkley when they were Houston Rocket teammates, and they kind of squashed that. Uh, I think years after they played with each other. But man, it's amazing too because I always hear Scottie Pippen talk about LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. He's on that shoe box every or what do you call that? What do you always
Soapbox.
say? Soapbox. There we go. Shoe box. Jordans.
Close enough.
Uh, uh, and I just think to myself, it's like, man, give it up already. You're never going to get past that aura that is Michael Jordan. He's up there, you're down here. Your personal life has taken a downward spiral. Your ex-wife dated one of Jordan's sons, and they just broke up, I think, a couple weeks ago. So there's some animosity there that I don't think a lot of people talk about, but I always see the drama on Facebook. I don't know why I follow these damn pages, but I see that and I'm like, yeah, that's why Pippen really, doesn't like Jordan. But it's unfortunate too because the interviews Michael Jordan had about Scottie Pippen was like, hey, I think it was in The Last Dance as well, where he
Yeah.
mentioned without Scottie Pippen, I don't win those 6 championships. He was my most important teammate ever. I needed him like he needed me. I wish it was still like that. And the most embarrassing things that came about from the reunion. I think it was the '96 reunion, whatever the case was for the Bulls this year. That Michael and Scotty did not show up.
And I
And
think
I
what
know
was
it.
worse though was that they booed Jerry
Yeah,
Krause and his widow, which I thought was absolute baloney.
yeah. So everybody, of course, is on Michael, and I'm wearing the shirt, which is wrong, but everybody is on that side. So you're gonna have that majority side, whether it's wrong or right, do that bad act. I do remember in The Last Dance, Horace Grant did mention, hey, without Jerry Cross making those moves, like drafting me, drafting Scotty, bringing in Longley or Ron Harper, Dennis Rodman, even though they had to get the okay from Michael and Scotty, who hated Rodman because of all the years during the when they were playing the Pistons. But Krause was the igniter of those teams, the architect of those teams. It's just that perception of the popular majority. And that's what was wrong with The Last Dance. The fact that, I don't know why I'm wearing this damn shirt. Okay, so he was, Michael Jordan controlled that whole documentary.
Right.
What was to be said, who was on the interviews, and how the chapters went. Of course, with the director who made it, I forgot. I watched that probably 7 times throughout, and I still don't remember certain people. But I was amazed, though, that Isaiah Thomas was even on there because, at
You want
first
to talk
they
about
were
beef?
Yeah,
Because of the Dream Team.
At first, they were young in the NBA. Isaiah was older than him slightly. Because he came in, I think, in 81. Jordan came in 84. But they were friends off the court. They golfed. They were at each other's, charity games in the summertime. They were friends at the All-Star game like they were with Magic. And then just that walk-off that the Pistons did basically in 91 just set that all off. And then the Dream Team came.
Yep.
But I think it was such an important topic that Michael had to have Isaiah there. And the cringiest thing, I do remember in the late 90s when Isaiah Thomas retired after his failed stint as the president of the expansion Raptors. He was on the NBA on NBC. And he was on the main 3 booth, with either Walton and Marv Albert, Mike Gukas, whomever. Thomas was there. Bob Costas later on. He had to interview Michael Jordan, did Isaiah. So I bet that was awkward as hell. So the fact that, and I remember this in Last Dance, where it's like Shaq or Michael said, "Hey, I'm not Shaq, Isaiah. You know that." So I think, again, okay, I've gone off course, but those 3 going out there, it won't last too long. The crowd that will show up, and if it comes stateside, I don't think it'll have much pull. I think you'll have some empty seats, some really dark amphitheaters that will hide the empty seats. Everybody wants to see Jordan, not them. I think the diehards, if you had a show in Chicago, they would come out. Maybe to some booze for Scotty. But it just sucks because I just want everybody to get together after a while, but egos never die, it seems like. And like I mentioned with Barkley, with Scotty, with Jordan, it's just worse because there's winning to it, there's success to it. I just saw this. I forget the beef history. I think it's Bleacher Report on YouTube, yes, or whomever does it. They had the Wilt Chamberlain versus Bill Russell. And of course, I grew up watching like documentaries or NBA TV, ESPN Classic, whatever. And they were together doing interviews. Okay. But I didn't know that for like 20 years they didn't talk. They were at the All-Star functions or whatever, but they never spoke to each other. And it was just because things were said through the newspapers back then. Because they would have those fierce rivalries. But Russell would always get other from 1 time or 2 times, Russell would always get the final say because he had the better teams, but he wasn't the better player. Wilt was. But this is between 2 teammates that did something great. But Michael, I think, pissed everyone off at a time, just being a tyrant. But he didn't care because he won. But look, Calvin, I just want I want everybody to get together one day and just hash it out. I think eventually that 2008 Celtic team, I think eventually Ray Allen and Rondo got together. I think finally Pierce and Garnett and Perkins and, whomever else on that team, I think they got everybody together finally and they squashed their beef for now. That's what I want to see with these Bulls players from the past.
Yeah, and I recall when the Padres did their 20th anniversary of the 98 ball club, who went to the World Series and lost to the almighty Yankees of the 90s. Those guys did not skip a beat. Like, they literally were saying, like,
Yeah,
this feels like yesterday that we just saw each other. They would, I went to a Q&A. They were talking about, like, the whole year, like spring training began, how Joey Hamilton rented, like, took someone's car from the parking lot, put the Jack in the Box mascot hat on, and did donuts around the outfield or something like that, like one day at spring training. And then, this upcoming year, the Padres, I believe, are going to honor the 40th anniversary of the
good.
84 ball club, who went to the first ever World Series. Now, obviously, it's been weird, though, having these reunions, though, where Tony Gwynn Sr.'s been passed or has been gone for, I believe, a decade now, all of a sudden, which is just hard to believe. I think he passed
14,
in
yeah.
2014.
Hmm.
So it's been a decade now that we've lost Tony Gwynn Sr. Alan Wiggins, again, 70-plus stolen bases. Still the
Jerry
Padres
Coleman
single
in the booth.
seasons. Jerry Coleman, Eric Shaw, I believe, is also
Yeah,
passed on. Dave Dravecki is still doing well. Steve Garvey's now running for office out here in California, if you can believe that, for heaven's sakes. But maybe, James, before we do in fact get out of here for the night/morning, is why do you believe Scotty's dragging Luke Longley and Horace Grant into this whole entire fray now all of a sudden?
I didn't think he wanted. He didn't want to be alone. First of all, and I think just to have a united front against Michael, I think that's what it is. To have more voices, because we didn't really hear Luke Longley in the Last Dance. Now I
I don't
know
think he
he's
did at all
yeah.
whatsoever.
It was Bill Winnington. It was Will Perdue, and Bill Cartwright,
Bill
but it
Cartwright,
wasn't
yeah.
any other center during that time.
Tony
Or
Kukoc wasn't interviewed, was he?
yeah, he was, because
Okay.
there was the drama of him playing against um, the USA team, and how Kraus loved Kukoc because they drafted him before he came over stateside, and there was that whole thing where they traded um, guarding him during the Olympics. So that
Right.
was a extra incentive and something they could bond over, literally, or something they did that they could bond over again. But I think, yeah, Scotty wanted a united front and try to get as many people as he could. But it's a thing. Do you want to burn that bridge that you maybe have to Michael for those other players that might not be in the spotlight as much?
Right.
You don't want to burn that bridge if you have one with Michael. It's one of those, Asian country ones that are like this in the fog, and you're going like that one in San Diego, that one that you cross and it's really,
Yes.
that pedestrian one. It's kind of like that with Michael.
Spruce Street, yeah.
Spruce Bridge, Spruce. Yeah, you don't want to. You don't want that bridge to fall with Michael, and Scotty is just, man. He's just hanging on to that bridge, and it's already broke. So I just feel like, yeah, there's a united front. He wanted more people on this. I know Luke Longley, after it, maybe a year or so after Last Dance, he had his little documentary. It was mostly with the Australian TV networks out there.
Yeah.
Um, and then Horace Grant, I know he was really opinionative in The Last Dance. How, like, he treated, teammates. Everybody really called him out in those 90s years, early 90s years. I know Winnington did, Purdue did, and then Horace Grant really went into detail, because there was a book, I think the author Sam Smith wrote about Michael, and it was about how one time Jordan like cussed out Horace Grant and he didn't like it, and then Bill Cartwright didn't like it. So you just have an added united front. I think Pippen's trying to have. That's all I could think why those three are together doing this, but it's not going to last.
I don't think so either. I think it's just more of, it feels like it's a smear campaign against Michael Jordan more than anything
That's
else,
it.
though, just because of guys can't, put the ego aside and like quash beefs that have been, they've had for 30, 25, 20, 25, 30 years, basically. With that, though, folks, in mind, holy cow, we went well beyond probably our required time. Again, Adam and the
My
guys can
fault.
get upset at me. Again, I was literally trying to fill a program void today as bro code was off on this Monday, now early Tuesday morning here on the West Coast. But James, I know that we got Entertainment Hour, I believe, coming back on Friday. What's on the schedule right now for the program at this rate? What do you got?
Nothing at all. No, we're gonna have our top 10 lists. I'm trying to think of something related to the year. I got to get to that because also I got stuff on Halos in the infield. I got to talk about spring training with the Angels, yay! So I got to do that script right now, and then later in the week I'll do the entertainment hour script. Also, if there's a sports minute, I'll hopefully be on that. We'll see, man. This year it's starting to ramp up a little bit more with the other stuff I have going. And you know all about that.
Oh, of course.
I shouldn't be saying anything, but yeah, it should be an entertaining entertainment hour. I hope, and if it's not, blame me.
You're the fall guy. If that's the case.
I'll take it. I don't fall too hard when I fall.
So
Humpty
again, folks,
Dumpty.
you can catch James, Dragon Viper, Randy Cox, and Chris Mabry on Entertainment Hour on Friday night back here on Coast to Coast Entertainment. We got a great week of programs lined up for you coming up later on Tuesday in just about 7 hours if you're on the West Coast. We'll have Big B and Tim Hendricks bright and early for another edition of C2C Rankum. Back here, 7 a.m. Pacific time, 9 a.m. Central. And again, roughly 7 hours here where James and I are living here in Southern California. I'll be back with you folks on Press Row both Wednesday and Thursday afternoon at 1 o'clock Pacific time. We'll come back hopefully for Sports Minute if Adam can host. If not, they'll be making the call to the bullpen again on Wednesday evening. I believe on Thursday we might be having Eleanor and Creeping It Real again on Thursday this weekend. They're on that bi-weekly schedule. We'll see what happens. And if not, again, PR is going to be live at 1 o'clock in the afternoon once more on Thursday. Again, James and the crew will have Entertainment Hour on Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday, again, kind of up for grabs right now. Again, we will, I think, confirm with Chris and James about On Deck. I think we'll be probably doing that probably later in March, I believe.
Yeah, middle of March.
Middle of March. Again, we do have those two Dodger-Padre games in South Korea in mid-March to kick off the regular season.
The weekend before that, we should be. The Saturday before that, we should be doing that.
So March 23rd would be the first episode of On Deck for the new season because the season literally begins March 28th.
Or before that. I want to say the Saturday before. I wanted to do that just to get the predictions in and all that. I honestly can't wait for that. I mean, I'm doing it for another network, another style show like that. So I'm going to be repeating myself like the ESPN people do, like day and night. Like you did today. You pulled off a day-night doubleheader.
Pretty much. And again, it was filling a program void again. The bros should be back with you folks next Monday again. Like I said at the open, I'm busy as hell. James is busy as hell. The whole crew is busy as hell. And again, this is more of a, hobby for us, more of a fun way to just, hang out with our friends and talk sports, talk entertainment as James does, as I do every so often on here as well. But again, also on Tuesday, again, for our wrestling fan base out there, again, Christy and Chris and Ace will have the full recap of Elimination Chamber from Down Under in Perth from Saturday morning. Again, I heard it was a 5 a.m. start time because of a time change out here on the West Coast, like 2 o'clock in the morning, I think, maybe even. But again, they will recap the entire wrestling or the entire Elimination Chamber recap. Again, Becky Lynch wins the Women's Elimination Chamber. Rhea Ripley wins on her home turf over Nia Jax down in Perth, Australia. From what I saw, though, from some behind-the-scenes content, they enjoyed being down there. The weather was, of course, very warm again. It is their summertime down there in Australia, but they all got to hang out with the koala bears at the zoo, and they got to do a lot of great things. So great job by WWE with that behind-the-scenes content. Anyway, folks, we're going to bed now out here on the West Coast. It is already Tuesday morning. But again, grateful to be on air with you folks here tonight into the early morning. But again, coming up in roughly about 7 hours will be Rankum with Tim and Big B. James, what do you got for us, bud?
One personal thing before I go. I want to congratulate you on your 300th AHL hockey game, announcing that I wanted to do that publicly in your, well, not really in your face, but on screen. You're a consummate professional. I've heard you at games. I've heard you on television, of course. I'm just waiting for the day I can go to your, 350th, 400th game, whatever you do. If you do the Angels again, I'm down for that. Maybe we'll hear you at Pickle Park one day. I just got to be there for something. Hopefully I will in the future. Continue success to you, your career. I know you're just headed for the stars. You're already ascending up there. Everybody knows your voice. Everybody loves you. Everybody knows you. Everybody likes you. And, cheers to another 300 games or whatever you may do. Cheers to all of that. I know you're just going to be a professional throughout, and I can't wait to see how much you grow.
Man, that really means a lot. James about to make me cry on C2C on C2C. No, I'm not. No, but
Yes.
no, James. I mean, seriously, and again, we're gonna be off air here, folks, in a bit. I mean, or like pretty soon. But again, I hit 300 games on Saturday in the American Hockey League. Again, I talked on Press Row about the milestone and kind of talked about the journey it's been, and to work the game Saturday and then have like roughly 20 of my closest friends, including 3 of them who came from out of town,
Mhm.
to the local Dave and Buster's here in San Diego. My gal pal couldn't make it, sadly, because her dog got into a fight with a cat, sadly, at her new place, which kind of sucked, though. But she still, was going to come out and, things of that nature and whatnot. But, I think I wrote, though, about, again, just it's been a long journey, but it's been worth it every step of the way, though. And I know in March it'll be 400 in my whole hockey career, which dates back to my sophomore year in high school, which will be on a Friday night. I think March 22nd will be that milestone game as well on a Friday evening. But again, like, James just literally laid it out there again. And it's, that I think that's the best part, though, about it is that you have people in your corner like James, who, it's the whole support those who support you endeavor, basically. But again, to have that many people show up, though, after the game was over, to have so many people send their messages over the web, the one instance where social media is good for you when you get stuff like that. I mean, my phone literally was just blowing up from game time till way into the next day, if not 2 days later, that it's been the case, though. And again, hearing it from James and then hearing it from all my friends, though, in person or even via, the program here, it just means that much, that, like I said at the tail end of Press Row, that the job itself now, I think, ever since COVID, has really, I think, become more and more appreciated because a lot of fans miss that minutia of the in-game DJ, the in-game announcers, that having that taken away from you for practically two years, practically, when COVID hit, and having to watch games from your home on TV or, in James' case, you listen on the radio. Yeah, you missed a lot of that minutia, and that was the thing that I missed a whole lot. Was my job kind of relies on the crowd getting into the game, like
Yeah.
thriving off of 10,000 plus people just losing their shit basically after a team ties the game when they're not playing their best, but they find a way to pull it out, though, and tie the game late. They win the game in overtime, or they win the game in general, just feeding off that excitement, that electricity. That was really hard, though, when fans were not able to be at games during 2020, 2021, and parts of 2022. Was just like, like, we're doing our best to bring, the energy, but it's just not there, and not having fans there. And that's why I think I've been so, I wouldn't say grateful, but so, like, really appreciative now to getting getting the messages from James and from friends of mine and stuff like that, whether they come to games or we're able to make the game or not, is that it just means that much more now because we all know what we lost at one point. And in my case, I lost being able to work games where I had people actually in the stands, like cardboard cutouts. Give me a break. Other than announcing for the teams and the officials and the crew that I would work with, there was nobody else in the building. That was the thing that was just so weird, and so what made the year just so bizarre, of just what we were going through. But again, James, thank you so much, man. That really,
Well,
again, it means a lot. Again, hitting 300 games on Saturday, going on 400 in my whole career in March on March 22nd. So if you want to put that in the calendar, James, there you go. It's a Friday night game at 7 o'clock. But anyway, again, folks, we will get out of here for the night. Again, the guys can find me if they want for the
me.
show going practically 3 hours. No, they can blame me, James, because this program was my idea to be a buffer if a program cannot be on late at night, and here we are after 2 hours and 40 minutes enjoying talking sports and just loving and enjoying life.
You talked about the NBA, you talked about basketball, you talked about uniforms, you talked about court storming, you talked about intensity, you talked about Michael Jordan. Those are all topics I can go days on. So it's my fault.
Not really.
And the Clippers too.
Yeah,
Once you added them in, I was like, oh yeah, I wanted to talk about this because nobody would hear my in head thoughts, of course.
And the only place that was, James, is C2C at night, which again, folks, is our kind of spattering off the wall here and there. We again are using this program as a buffer to kind of fill the schedule. Again, in the event that J-Mac and the crew can't make it on a Monday, for example, or if I'm still in the mood to do another program and do a double header. I mean, this is what we're going to be right now. Now we'll see if James can maybe join us again when we maybe better plan having C2C at night, because our comment box is dead. But we covered almost 3 hours of commentary tonight by just rambling on what I talked about on my Press Row podcast on Monday.
That shows you, like, man, you cover a lot. Again, that's another thing about you, because when we had those post-show calls, right, you were into, or you were showing us the preparation you have. The greats do that. Chick Hearn, Vin Scully especially, Dick Enberg. I learned about them having, the biggest, papers and having notes about certain player, or how to pronounce a certain player's name, but you have the toughest job. You have all those Russian players,
Oh yeah,
Czechoslovakian players, whomever, Canadian even. Well, tough for me, not for you. And you break it down like that. I got to see the behind the scenes, the work you do. That is absolutely wild, and it's just something I admire and respect about you in that case. It's amazing how much preparation you do. And it goes back to I remember Red Barber telling Vin Scully, I think the first year Vin was with Brooklyn. It was spring training, I think, in 1950. And
beautiful Vero Beach, Florida.
Vin went to go down and see which players are playing, which aren't, But Red asked, hey, why is that player hurt? And Vin didn't have the answer. So every time after that, Vin, asked why. He literally got the questions or the answers from those questions, and he was so much prepared. So I like to think in that case, you're definitely prepared throughout. So that's another thing I admire about you and your job and your career is like, hey, it takes preparation if you want to be the best at it, and you're there.
And James, I actually brought that up too on the Press Row pod last Friday about kind of learning on the fly when I first got into announcing hockey 15 seasons ago when I was a sophomore in high school, which is, again, where that 400th game comes into line in March. Now, the data count is sadly inaccurate because there are 2 seasons that are missing stats that I don't have the win-loss record of the WSHL goals where I got my start, 15 years ago. But the rough number I had was 93 games in that league, but I know it's more than 93. That's why it's kind of not quite fully there, because I'm missing a year or two of data from the fact that the record books have been cleared out. But that was like where I learned on the fly to be prepared, was because I would come in, act like I knew everything, and my shit didn't stink. And when I'd go on the air, it was a god awful broadcast. And that was where I'm at now, of learning from those past mistakes and why the preparation at like this time of the evening. Like if this was a like almost a game day, I'd be up right now still, maybe working out, getting rosters in order, score sheets in order, looking over a guy's name. And that's why that the late hours I put in, though, are so worthwhile now, because of all those lessons I learned trial by fire 15 years ago, to your point, paying off now here 15 years later.
I go back, and this will be my last words, I hope. What John Wooden mentioned, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. I always will remember that. And I do a horrible job at preparing, but there's some days I buckle down. So I like to live by those words, and, be quick, don't hurry. I love those quotes that John Wooden had. And even though, I'm not a UCLA guy, I will always quote those things
Oh, yeah.
to the future generations below me, whomever that's having a hard time concentrating or controlling what they have to do. I name that, and they're like, what? But when you think about it, oh yeah, that makes hell of a sense.
Absolutely. And again, whether you love UCLA or not, I think everyone out there loves and respects John Wooden. All the books, the life lessons, the teaching, the pyramid of success. That is a very big thing as well that I know. I forgot who, but I remember a lot of one of my colleagues referenced the pyramid of success, though, when I first kind of got into the industry a long time ago. Anyway, we're about to go and crash and go to bed. It is nearly 1:00 in the morning here on the left coast. Again, folks, you're going to catch Big B and Tim Hendricks in roughly 6 hours at 7 a.m. Pacific time on Rankum to kick off our Tuesday slate of programming before we get to Between the Ropes later in the evening to recap the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view with Christy Wilson, Chris, Big B, and Adam Barber as well. But again, folks, thanks for hanging out with us here, though, again, tonight on this Improv to C2C at night. Again, we will do our best to make this, announce that we're going to be on having this program eventually, again, but we more so came on last minute to fill the void of Bro Code not being on the night. But again, you can see the fellas, I think, maybe on Friday night. If not, it'll be next Monday again. But look for James and I to probably be back with you folks here for C2C at night again sometime later in the weekend. If not, I know Brandon and I are working on a cool project for a program after tomorrow.
Nice.
It's a tease. So Brandon already told me about it at 6:30 Monday morning about what is going to be happening on Rankum on Tuesday. So the tease is you can tune into Rankum and find out what the tease is from Mr. Herrera and what we have planned for a potential new program. We are going to be folks getting back to the grid as well for Immaculate Grid.
Nice.
Once my schedule does lighten up, though, but March is a just very, very busy month. I have 9 hockey games in March. I have a conference tournament for basketball I'm calling one day, on top of fulfilling soccer and the college softball season ramping up as well. So March will be a very, very busy month for me again. But hey, it is what it is at the end of the day. And with that in mind, we're heading out, folks, finally. That man is James Gonzalez. Catch him again on Friday on Entertainment Hour here with the rest of our entertainment crew of Randy Cox and Crispy Bacon, Chris Mabry. Catch me, Cal McClurg, again on Wednesday and Thursday here for Press Row. At 1 o'clock Pacific time, again, we'll cover all the big stories in the sports world, but from the angle of sports business and sports media. With that, folks, in mind, Big B and Tim Hendricks are coming up later in the day here at roughly 7 a.m. local time here to kick off our Tuesday slate of programs here on Coast to Coast Entertainment. I'm out of gas. I'm going to be going to bed here. But for James Gonzalez, Cal McClurg saying good night here, or good day, good morning, where we might be joining us from here on C2C, folks. Till next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.